Chapter 166. Gao Rao blocked one blow after another in the arena. He felt that the more he blocked, the harder it was for him, while the more he fought, the fiercer his opponent became. It wasn't that he hadn't watched the competition videos of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club. It wasn't that he didn't know how terrifying his opponent's 24 blizzard strikes was. It wasn't that he didn't prepare for it and didn't consider how to prevent his opponent from using his strength. It was just that he was in a hurry to defend himself. He didn't have the ability to use short bursts of strength. But now, Sun Jian had already started to gain momentum. Each punch was heavier than the previous one, and each kick was fiercer than the previous one. Gao Rao was on the verge of collapsing, and his strength was at a disadvantage. He could only focus on defense, and there was no chance for him to use short bursts of strength. If the Nine-Yang Fist was a better martial art and had a burst of power similar to the modern cannon fist or an unreasonable move like the bear form, Gao Rao would have been able to use it to meet force with force and forcefully interrupt his opponent's violent blizzard suppression. Unfortunately, the biggest characteristic of the Nine-Yang Fist was that it did not have any special characteristics. It had all kinds of hammering techniques, single whips, cannon fists and leg techniques, but lacked the finishing touch. Can I only endure until his stamina can't keep up? But I'm afraid I can't hold on much longer. Facing Sun Jian's undersea blast and half-step crushing punch, Gao Rao was a little anxious. He couldn't wait to get out of the current situation. If he lost again, how could he face his eldest senior brother? To see his eldest senior brother who refused to join other forces in order to protect the name of the martial arts club, to see his eldest senior brother who didn't want to become a disciple of a dance stage master, to see his eldest senior brother who protected him and others and never complained. I want to help him even in my dreams. I can't be a burden anymore. Gao Rao felt a strong desire to fight burning in his heart and the urge to break out of the current situation. He couldn't hold it in anymore. He exerted strength in his back, bulged his thighs and suddenly leaned his feet. As the force rebounded, he straightened his knees, tightened his thighs, sprung his spine, and rotated his waist and back, stirring all the muscles in his body, turning his right arm into a whistling steel whip. With a snap, he lashed out fiercely and firmly. This was perhaps the most powerful attack he could unleash. Sun Jian didn't show mercy. He sprung his back and his body swung forward. Mixed with the borrowed strength, he blasted out a mountain blast punch. Bang! With a dull explosion, Gao Rao, whose strength was already at a disadvantage, swayed his body and barely managed to maintain his center of gravity. At this time, he saw Sun Jian take half a step back as if he was about to stumble and fall. Could it be that he only had an empty frame and his lower body was unstable? Gao Rao was overjoyed. Just as he was about to stabilize his center of gravity and switch from defense to offense, Sun Jian's stomp made him seem like a spring or a stray bullet. After a quick collision with the ground, he suddenly rebounded forward. His speed was so fast that Gao Rao only had time to hurriedly raise his arms. Catapult technique. Sun Jian had just closed in on Gao Rao's body when he opened his right hand. His 5 fingers were like sharp teeth and fierce claws as he ruthlessly grabbed the enemy's arm. Just as Gao Rao was about to shake off his arm, Sun Jian stepped on the ground again and leaped forward. He flashed past Gao Rao's stance and appeared behind him. Then he turned around and grabbed both of Gao Rao's arms. With a twist, a lift and a scissor, Sun Jian completed the capture. At the same time, he raised his right foot and kicked the bend of Gao Rao's knee. Gao Rao's attempt to turn the tables was abruptly stopped. He could no longer stand steadily and fell on one knee. Until now, Gao Rao suddenly came to his senses and realized that he had fallen into Sun Jian's trap. The referee beside him raised his right hand and loudly announced the result. First round, Sun Jian wins. Gao Rao's mind buzzed. His heart was full of annoyance and confusion. Lost? I lost again? Did I drag senior brother down again? When Sun Jian let go of his hand, he stood up shakily and walked out of the arena in a daze. Sure enough, this was not a cartoon. You couldn't win just because you had the reason and belief to win. You couldn't defeat a strong enemy just by recalling the past and shouting in your heart. Sun Jian was not interested in the enemy's thoughts or emotions. After the expected trap succeeded, he was overflowing with joy and satisfaction. The taste of victory was indeed wonderful, so was the hot blood of every punch. He turned around and waved his fist at the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club and the audience in the stands. Lu Qing and the others smiled and applauded. The audience responded with warm cheers. Sun Jian. In the warm atmosphere, Gao Rao walked back to the guest team's seat. He almost didn't dare to raise his head and face senior brother, junior brothers, and junior sisters. The front part was too tight and the back part was too rushed. Peng Qingguang was neither disappointed nor angry. He simply commented, "Go back and think about it carefully. After you digest and absorb the combat experience of this preliminaries, you have a great chance to go further." Hearing eldest senior brother's consolation and encouragement, and feeling how indifferent he was about his failure, Gao Rao felt even more upset. He wished that eldest senior brother could scold him and give him a few slaps. Only then would he feel better, and the guilt and self-blame in his heart would dissipate a little. "Senior brother, I'm not a kid anymore." He really wanted to shout back like this. Peng Qingguang looked at Zhang Ying, who was standing beside him, and whispered, "Take the initiative. Don't let him mess up your rhythm. Don't let him get the chance to close in on you. Also stay calm and don't rush. He's a smart opponent and is good at setting traps." Zhang Ying nodded and remembered senior brother's words. She turned around and walked to the arena, her eyes fixed on Sun Jian. Well, in conclusion, this is a refined scum. Her hair was tied up and her ponytail was swinging. With her baby face, people would believe that she was still in high school. After standing in front of Sun Jian, she took a deep breath and told herself to calm down. Second round, start. The referee didn't give them time to adjust. Gao Rao was a fighter of amateur first pin. It seemed easy for Sun Jian to defeat him, but in fact it wasn't easy. If he hadn't made his opponent fall into a passive position at the beginning and used 24 blizzard strikes, the winner would have been uncertain. After going through such a fierce battle, and the fact that 24 blizzard strikes was a particularly exhausting fighting style, one could imagine Sun Jian's condition. He only had one thought at this time, and that was to force his opponent to meet force with force and create an opportunity for Li Mao behind him. Bang! After the start sound, he stepped forward. His right arm shook and turned into a long spear. With the momentum of exploding the air, he stabbed at Zhang Ying. Zhang Ying had been prepared. Her right foot slipped and dodged to the side, trying to fight steadily. As soon as she came to the side of her opponent, she tightened her thigh muscles and drove her knee to pull out a whip kick that tore the wind. Sun Jian took a deep breath, twisted his waist and back, tightened his trousers, and fiercely kicked out his left leg from the side. Bang! After the two collided, Zhang Ying took advantage of the rebound force and tiptoed to change her position again. She started to attack again and controlled the rhythm of the game. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. The two kept fighting and separating. Zhang Ying didn't give Sun Jian a chance to use 24 blizzard strikes in close combat. She grasped the trick of moving away as soon as she touched him. After a series of collisions, she found another opportunity. She blocked and pulled with her left hand and punched with her right fist. Bang! Sun Jian's right hand turned into a hammer and went straight down to block this punch. His body was shaking. Was he at his limit? Was his strength reduced to this extent? Zhang Ying was shocked and was about to take advantage of the situation to attack fiercely. However, the words of eldest senior brother suddenly echoed in her mind. "Calm down, don't rush." Zhang Ying calmed down, twisted her waist and back slightly, and stepped to the side of Sun Jian again. Then she saw that he took advantage of the rebound force and rushed forward fiercely, bursting out the power that was comparable to his heyday. Phew, he is really treacherous. I was almost fooled. Zhang Ying was angry. She caught up with him in a few steps, raised her right hand, lowered her waist, and was about to take the opportunity to cut down with her fist. At this time, Sun Jian exerted strength on his feet and jumped out of the ring. Jumped out of the ring, jumped out of the ring. Zhang Ying stared blankly at Sun Jian below the stage. She wondered if he had become muddle-headed. After Sun Jian stood firmly, he quickly tidied his hair and praised himself for being smart. When the last burst of power didn't hit the enemy, he was at his limit. As long as the opponent hit him one or two more times, he would definitely be defeated. Since he was going to be defeated anyway, why would he stupidly let the opponent hit him, or fall to the ground and make himself look so embarrassed? In front of so many people, he had to keep his composure. Sun Jian brushed his hair and walked back to his seat with light footsteps. Seeing this, Li Mao stood up suddenly and left his seat. Because his face was not as bad as before, and his body was not as tense as before, Lu Qing and the others didn't say anything to avoid the opposite effect. Slowly, she will definitely lose. When he was about to meet Li Mao, Sun Jian clenched his fist and said with a smile. This time, Li Mao felt a little nervous, but he didn't lose the ability to think. He nodded and reached out his right fist to bump with Sun Jian's. As he walked up the stone steps, he gently exhaled and adjusted his slightly tense body. Just like what Cheng and the others said, when he removed the burden, his nervousness would gradually decrease with the number of fights. It was not a terminal illness that couldn't be overcome. My body is still a little stiff. If I respond passively later, it will be easy to cause problems. So, it's better to take the initiative and take the initiative. After I get through the difficulties at the beginning, I can really enter the competition state. Li Mao silently said, take the initiative, and came to the opposite of Zhang Ying. Compared to before, he was quite satisfied with his current state. At least his mind was not close to blank. Zhang Ying seized the time to adjust her breath and recover her strength. She had just calmed down and played a guerrilla fight, which prolonged the competition time and consumed a lot of energy. However, after winning the first round, the burden in her heart was reduced a lot, and she could calmly analyze the situation of her opponent. This martial artist called Li Mao was very nervous. Although his symptoms were definitely not as serious after his victory over Feng Xiaoqun last week, I still had a chance to take advantage of it. I will take the initiative to attack and take advantage of his confusion at the beginning. The third round start. The referee waved his arm. As soon as he finished his words, Li Mao gathered his strength and instinctively stepped forward. Zhang Ying's knee bounced and fiercely jumped forward. The two figures were very close in an instant, which made the audience exclaim. At this distance, with this kind of inertia, it was already too late for anyone to dodge or retreat. Their pupils contracted at the same time. In an instant, relying on the instinct of a fighter, they clenched their teeth, twisted their backs, and punched at the same time. When two rivals meet on a narrow road, the brave wins. Chapter 167. Both Li Mao and Zhang Ying summoned their courage without any hesitation. They both stomped on the ground, twisted their waist and swung their arms, and threw out the same blast punch. Bang! When the two fists collided, it was as if they were frozen in mid-air. Immediately after, Li Mao's body swayed backward, while Zhang Ying took half a step back. Only then did she manage to stabilize her body. Both of them were of amateur second pin. As a woman, she was at a disadvantage in terms of strength after a fierce fight. Li Mao's mind was still a little tight, so he didn't have time to think. Following his fighting instinct, he swayed his waist, bulged his legs, and kicked out his left leg like a soft whip. Bam! His left leg straightened quickly, exploding the air. Zhang Ying didn't have time to dodge. She gritted her teeth, tightened her feet, and kicked back. Bang! The two legs hit each other, swayed, and took a step back. Li Mao's mind was full of the idea of attacking first. Without any adjustment, he pounced forward again, bulged his muscles, swung his right arm, and hammered like a war drum. Again? Zhang Ying's eyes narrowed, and she regretted her previous decision. But now she had no better choice but to fight hard. She stomped on the ground with her right foot, pulled back her arm, clenched her fist, and shook the wind like a cannonball. Bang! Another muffled sound. Zhang Ying couldn't withstand her opponent's strength. Her right arm was swung away and her upper body fell back, losing her center of gravity. Li Mao, on the other hand, only swayed and was about to attack again. In a flash, Zhang Ying suddenly thought of the competition video she studied a few days ago, and a picture flashed in her mind. She could try this. Anyway, it couldn't be worse. She clenched her teeth and gave up trying to stabilize her center of gravity and force in a hurry. She leaned forward and bent her waist, but her right leg suddenly bounced up, turned into a straight whip, and unexpectedly whipped Li Mao. Iron Bridge Dragon turning over. This was a move Zhang Ying learned from watching Lu Cheng's fighting video. Before reaching the high-ranked Dan stage, there wouldn't be any complicated feints or changes in the moves. This was because the speed and control ability of low-ranked martial artists couldn't accomplish these at all. It would only make the moves look fancy and impractical, and it would only be for show. Therefore, the core of the martial arts in these few stages was visualization, force exertion techniques, and routines to train different muscles. It was something that couldn't be learned from watching videos or watching fights. Of course, some moves and techniques couldn't be hidden from others. After watching a few replays, one would be able to figure it out. For example, the trick to take a step back when colliding with the opponent and Lu Cheng's Iron Bridge Dragon flip. In terms of movement, this move was simple and clear. The difficult part was whether one had the ability to control their own center of gravity. Being able to understand it did not mean that one could learn it. Of course, Zhang Ying wasn't as good as Lu Cheng in this aspect, but she didn't expect to be able to stabilize her center of gravity and borrow the force to rise again. She was purely relying on the advantage of a girl's flexibility to seek chaos in defeat and obstruct the enemy. Li Mao did not expect that the enemy would respond in this way. His left hand lashed out like a whip, taking advantage of the situation to launch an attack. However, he saw the black martial arts shoes coming straight at his chin. The air was torn apart and the wind was whistling. Li Mao couldn't take back his stance and his right fist couldn't catch up to block. Li Mao's heart tightened. He didn't have time to think. He shrunk his head, curled his body and lay down to the side. Lazy donkey roll. Zhang Ying's kick missed and she lost her balance. She fell to the ground and rolled twice. At the same time, both of them jumped up like a carp and stood up again. Only then did the students recover from their initial exclamations. They applauded and cheered for the courage and determination displayed by the two in the previous collision. After this, Li Mao was frightened and scared. His nervousness completely disappeared and he entered the competition state. He calmed down and faced Zhang Ying's attack calmly. Zhang Ying also didn't have the intention to attack first. She used her footwork and walked around the opponent to take the initiative to attack and let the competition return to the rhythm she was familiar with. Just as she came to the side, she clenched her fist and chopped with great momentum. Li Mao didn't want to win, but he didn't want to make any mistakes. He raised his right arm to block first and then swung it out to avoid the next move, going to the back. Zhang Ying twitched her thigh and kicked the enemy's knee with the tip of her foot. Li Mao twisted his waist and turned around, sweeping his leg. Similar scenes kept happening. The sound of the collision and the crisp sound of the air exploding echoed from time to time. One of them attacked beautifully, the other defended stably. It was difficult to determine the winner in a short time. During this process, Li Mao didn't only know how to defend. He himself was not a heavy and inflexible style. Once he seized the opportunity, he would take a few steps forward and counterattack to relieve the pressure of the passive defense. As time passed, he suddenly heard Zhang Ying's breathing become heavier and her flexible footwork seemed to be a little slower. Did her physical strength drop to the level of qualitative change? Li Mao's heart moved, but he didn't immediately counterattack because he was too anxious in the last round. As soon as he noticed that Feng Xiaoquan was close to his limit, he attacked fiercely. As a result, he was almost defeated by the opponent's tiger and crane attack. The lesson was not far away. Li Mao calmed down and slowly changed the situation of attack and defense. After forcing Zhang Ying back with one move, he took a step forward, swung his right arm and waved it down like holding a steel whip. Crack. Zhang Ying's footwork was not messed up. Her right arm crossed in front of her chest and hammered in the opposite direction to block the whip. However, when the two of them collided, Li Mao could clearly feel her weakness. Hence, he did not show her any mercy. He swung his arms, making them look like two steel whips. As his body leaned forward, he alternated between swinging them down crazily. The slapping sounds were endless. Zhang Ying gritted her teeth, held her breath, and blocked a few times. Finally, she couldn't resist and was pulled away from her stance. She was about to be hit in the body. At this time, the referee next to him stretched out his hand and put it on Li Mao's shoulder. With a shake and a press, he dispersed his strength. The third round, Li Mao wins. With the referee's announcement, the audience in the stands responded with warm applause. They cheered for Li Mao and also showed respect to a girl who could fight to this extent. At the same time, some students whispered to each other, discussing whether Li Mao's last few moves were the legendary tortoise fist. But Li Mao didn't care about this. Even if his posture was ugly, it was good enough to win the game. This is the second victory I've won on behalf of Songqing University Martial Arts Club. He gasped and thought in ecstasy. Suddenly, an idea came to his mind. Martial arts is so interesting. Zhang Ying heaved a sigh of relief and looked a little disappointed. She still wanted to defeat Li Mao so that her senior brother could face Lu Cheng in his most complete state. As for exhausting Lu Cheng, she had already given up the idea after witnessing Lu Cheng's abnormal stamina in 3 consecutive battles. Forget it. With senior brother's strength, defeating Li Mao is just a piece of cake. It won't affect his duel with Lu Cheng. With a change of mind, she walked down the ring in a good mood and went to meet her eldest senior brother. You fought very well. Peng Qingguang was not stingy with his praise. Hearing this, Zhang Ying was first overjoyed, then inexplicably touched. Her eyes reddened and she almost shed tears. The words she had prepared turned into 3 words in a low voice. Eldest senior brother? Senior brother, I'm so happy to be able to help you. Peng Qingguang smiled and said confidently without showing off, Go back. Leave the rest to me. After giving each other a high five, he walked along the road, stepped on the stone steps and stepped into the arena. Looking at the famous 9th pin master, Li Mao suddenly felt a little nervous, not because of nervousness, but because it was the first time he faced a professional fighter. Don't panic. I just want to exhaust him a few moves. What's there to be afraid of? Li Mao calmed down and stared at Peng Qingguang in his posture. This 9th pin master is much more mature than his actual age. The audience cheered for Li Mao again. At the same time, They didn't expect Li Mao to be invincible after a fierce battle. They only thought that with the gap of 2 pins, he should be able to exhaust some of Lu Cheng's strength and create an advantage for Lu Cheng. Li Mao! Li Mao! As the shouts echoed, the referee waved his right hand. The 4th round start. Li Mao didn't dare to fight with a professional 9th pin master. He moved forward with the snake steps and slid to the side of Peng Qingguang. He clenched his fist and hit his opponent with chopping force. Peng Qingguang stood steadily and didn't rush to attack. At this time, his right foot suddenly stepped toward Li Mao from the side. He raised his right arm and blocked Li Mao's chopping force easily. Because of this clever step, his body was in front of his opponent. At this time, all the muscles on Peng Qingguang's back seemed to be connected, shaking like a big snake. He raised his right arm and followed it up with an elbow strike. Bang! Li Mao hurriedly used his left palm to block, but immediately felt a majestic force coming towards him. Peng Qingguang had forcefully slammed his palm into his chest. He felt stuffy and lost his center of gravity, falling backward. Peng Qingguang took advantage of the momentum from the elbow strike and quickly shot out his forearm to grab Li Mao's collar like a gust of wind. Using his skillful strength, he helped Li Mao regain his balance. Then, he elegantly retracted his hand and looked at Li Mao with a smile. If he didn't grab my collar but pinched my throat, I would be dead. Li Mao stood there in a daze. The referee announced the result. The 4th round, Peng Qingguang wins. The shouts and cheers echoing in the martial arts arena stopped abruptly, leaving only a few echoes. The audience didn't expect Li Mao to lose so quickly and so easily. He looked like he couldn't fight back at all. Isn't this professional 9th pin too strong? Lu Cheng suddenly stood up and looked at the ring. His blood was boiling and his fighting spirit was surging. This is the kind of opponent I look forward to. If you only know how to bully the weak, then what's the point of learning martial arts? Peng Qingguang also turned around and looked at Lu Cheng. He put on a posture and made an inviting gesture. When the 4 eyes met, sparks and electric currents seemed to be ignited in the air. The 4 fighters of the Azure Dragon squad suddenly held their breath as if they felt the turbulent waves between Lu Cheng and Peng Qingguang. Lin Ke took a deep breath and showed a rare look of regret. He only regretted that his injury hadn't healed yet. Lu Cheng climbed up the stone steps and calmly walked forward under Peng Qingguang's gaze. Amidst the waves of cheers, each louder than the last, he stood in front of the enemy. This is my territory and I call the shots. The referee did not give the 2 commanders a chance to speak. He raised his right hand and said, "The final round begins." As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Cheng, who had already adjusted his body condition, swayed his center of gravity, drew an arc in the air and pounced on his opponent without warning. At the same time, Peng Qingguang's thigh muscles swelled and squirmed as if they had a life of their own. With a spring and a shake, he changed from a standstill to a high speed. He rushed towards Lu Cheng's original position, as if he wanted to catch his opponent off guard and prevent him from using the skill of mercurial balance. With a dash and a flash, Lu Cheng came to Peng Qingguang's side. He bent his body slightly, stepped on the ground, and suddenly launched a seabed cannon straight at his opponent's waist. This was similar to his previous performance when he used mercurial balance to fight strong opponents, but in essence, it was completely different. This was not seabed cannon but seabed quake. And Lu Cheng had already quietly lowered his center of gravity, intending to use all his strength in this attack. Rumble. His mind was filled with thunderclouds, the dark sound reverberated, and the fascia and muscles of his arms and shoulders were tight. Peng Qingguang had just steadied himself when he was faced with such a blow. He had no time to do a side kick, so he had to explode the strength in his shoulders, waved his right arm and raised his fist like a hammer. Bang! As soon as the 2 collided, Lu Cheng's compressed strength exploded, like detonating a cannonball. The first strike of Thunder Roar Zen. Boom! Peng Qingguang's mind suddenly buzzed, and he felt like he had hit a landmine. The violent vibration started from his right fist and quickly spread to his whole body, shaking his skin, muscles, fascia, and bones, rolling his qi and blood, and affecting his internal organs. Tremor punch? Lu Cheng has mastered tremor punch? He felt so uncomfortable that he wanted to vomit, and even his strength seemed to become difficult. But he knew that victory was at hand, so he quickly gathered his spirit, contracted his body slightly, and then immediately opened it, and his feet fiercely touched the ground. Crack! With his feet as the round point, thin crisscrossing cracks appeared on the ground, forming a spider web. And with this rebound, the muscles of Peng Qingguang's calves, thighs, back, abdomen, chest, arms and shoulders suddenly came to life, turning into ferocious flood dragons, propping up his clothes and exploding them. Following that, he twisted his waist and back, twisting this force into one and sending out a fierce swing force. Lu Qing had succeeded in his punch and was about to win the game, but suddenly he felt that Peng Qingguang in front of him had turned into an erupting volcano, and his whole body was gushing with terrible strength. Then he was involuntarily thrown out and lost his balance. What a terrifying outburst! Lu Qing's heart tightened as he quickly adjusted his muscles. When the first step landed, he had basically regained his balance. However, he didn't stop there. Instead, he took 2 more steps, accumulating strength with each step. He was waiting for Peng Qingguang's pursuit so that he could give him a counterattack. After 2 steps, Lu Qing had turned around and found that Peng Qingguang was still standing there, exhaling a long breath, and didn't take the opportunity to attack. He suddenly realized that Peng Qingguang didn't feel good under his Thunder Roar Zen, and maybe he had just stabilized his chi and blood. He didn't chase not because he didn't want to, but because he couldn't. Their eyes met again and they shouted at the same time, "Good." They cheered for their own performance and also for the enemy's strength. In the stands, Kai Zongming, Qiu Zhigao, Zhao Chang and other roommates had already arrived as Lu Cheng's friends and relatives. They were watching the big screen attentively, and they gasped because of the collision just now. In the previous attack, Lu Cheng's Thunder Roar Zen was aimed directly at the enemy, and its power was not shown at all. It was far less terrifying than Peng Qingguang's throwing of his opponent by stepping on the green bricks, wriggling his muscles and throwing his opponent, which made them frightened for a moment. "Talker, Cheng's opponent seems to be very strong," Zhang Jingye said with a toothache. Kai Zongming was also worried, but he looked calm on the surface. No matter how strong he is, can he be stronger than an 8th pin in the dance stage? But last time it was Lin Ke who attacked first. Qiu Zhigao subconsciously retorted. Kai Zongming laughed and said, "But Peng Qingguang is not in the dance stage. He just stepped on a few green stones, right? Qing can do the same. Besides, it's normal to lose a few challenge tournaments. Who hasn't lost in the Dragon King and Warrior Sage? There are so many modern competitions, who can guarantee that he will only meet an enemy who is only a little stronger than himself?" Zhao Chang didn't know much about martial arts, so when he heard Talker's words he was relieved. He muttered to himself that it was also possible to race, and then looked at the arena again. Lu Qing and Peng Qingguang were fighting again. This time he shook his center of gravity and flashed to the left side of his opponent. He planned to make a feint attack to trick his opponent into attacking first, while he flashed to the back of his opponent in advance and took the opportunity to attack with Thunder Roar Zen. He shook his right arm as if he was going to attack, but his center of gravity swayed and he flashed to the back of Peng Qingguang like a ghost. However, during this process, Peng Qingguang didn't move at all, as if he had seen through his trick. Lu Qing didn't dare to stay. He slid his feet and shifted his center of gravity, flashing to the right side of his opponent again. According to the video of the competition, Peng Qingguang did have a little taste of absolute reaction, and he was better than Lu Qing in this aspect. It seems that I can't find a chance to attack his Thunder Roar Zen by combining feint attacks and mercurial center of gravity. Lu Qing figured out the key while he was moving. Thinking of this, he suddenly had an idea and did a reverse thinking. Peng Qingguang didn't have a complete, absolute reaction. If he could make it a little bit more realistic, it might have a miraculous effect. Without much time to think, Lu Qing suddenly took a deep breath and let his spirit enter the state of concealment of spirit and qi. He visualized the white peaks and thousands of miles of snow, and got rid of all distracting thoughts, leaving only the part of him that was integrated into it. Boom! Lightning struck and the snow mountain collapsed. Hundreds of millions of tons of snow turned into a torrent and rushed down. Lu Qing shook his right arm as if he was going to release the power that engulfed everything. At this moment his mega avalanche was ready in form and spirit. Just as his right arm was shaking, Peng Qingguang's thigh muscles suddenly tightened. His tattered martial arts shoes flew out and gave a quick and fierce side kick. However, before Lu Qing's mega avalanche was released, he had already swayed his center of gravity and flashed to the back of Peng Qingguang. Seizing the opportunity when Peng Qingguang didn't withdraw his side kick, he lowered his waist and took a step forward, compressing the muscles of his arms and shoulders. Then he clasped his hands together and hit from the top right to the bottom left like a huge hammer. This was a blow that could withstand 2 tremor punches. This was the conventional killing move of Thunder Roar Zen, Mountain Smash Punch. Chapter 169. Lu Qing was like a giant in myths and legends. He swung a sledgehammer, and smashed it down from the top. He looked condescending and full of strength. Everyone in the Mingwei martial arts school exclaimed instinctively. Gao Rao, Zhang Ying and the others in the Mingwei martial arts school stood up directly. They had just witnessed Big Brother throw Lu Qing out with all his strength, which made him lose his center of gravity temporarily. He almost couldn't maintain his balance and had to use the old method of wandering to avoid the attack. However, in less than a minute the situation took a turn for the worse. Big Brother was deceived by the feint and was caught by the enemy. He was about to face an attack that was hard to defend against. How could this happen? Big Brother was close to absolute reaction, and was not afraid of sneak attacks or feints. They couldn't understand what was happening in the arena. They only felt that their dream had turned into a nightmare. They subconsciously clenched their fists and tightened their bodies, looking at the arena with worry and hope. Not only did they not understand, but the 4 professional 9th pin fighters of Azure Dragon Squad were also confused. They couldn't understand the response of the 2 in the arena. Others only knew that Lu Qing relied on mercurial balance to avoid the attack and look for an opportunity. However, they could see that it was actually Peng Qingguang who was worried about a head-on collision. Facing Lu Qing's attack, he didn't dodge first and then counterattacked. He relied on his vision, knowledge and judgment to seize the opportunity and attack the opponent's vital points directly, forcing the opponent to give up the idea of a head-on collision. How could Peng Qingguang be afraid of a head-on collision with Lu Qing? Didn't he just crush the green bricks and throw Lu Qing out of the room? In terms of strength, speed, agility, skills, experience and style, he shouldn't be afraid. Several fighters of Azure Dragon Squad looked at each other and vaguely felt that something was wrong. What was Peng Qingguang, who had beaten them so badly, afraid of? After he flung Lu Qing out, why didn't he take the opportunity to attack and kill him? At this moment, Lu Qing had completely forgotten the changes around him. He couldn't hear the exclamations of the audience and the cheers after they woke up. His eyes and ears were only focused on Peng Qingguang's every move. He clasped his hands together and swung down fiercely with the momentum of, "I swear I won't stop until I break this mountain." If Peng Qingguang used the scorpion swings its tail, then he would use the mountain smash quake to block his kick. After all, the thunder roar zen only required contact, and there was no rule on where the contact had to be. Once the force of the explosion was released, the resulting shockwave would be almost the same as hitting a vital point. If Peng Qingguang gave up his stance and rolled forward to avoid the attack, then he would withdraw his strength in time and catch up with him in large strides. He would seize the opportunity when Peng Qingguang was unable to support himself and could not use his strength to secure the victory. The subsequent changes flashed through Lu Qing's mind. He swung the sledgehammer, even more resolutely. At this moment, Peng Qingguang didn't completely withdraw his right leg from the side kick. Instead, he took the opportunity to shrink his neck and jump to the right. Lu Qing's mountain smash punch, which was aimed at his right shoulder, turned into an attack on his left shoulder. As soon as his right foot touched the ground, he suddenly lowered his center of gravity and lowered his waist into a sitting position. His body seemed to curl up subtly. His strength and chi and blood seemed to condense at one point in his dantian. Then that point suddenly burst out and gushed out. As Peng Qingguang's body opened, the force rushed to his shoulder. Peng Qingguang stepped on the ground and his shoulder exploded. All the muscles in his body bulged. He took the initiative to raise his shoulder to meet Lu Qing's mountain smash. Bam! The moment the two came into contact, Lu Qing exploded the thunderclouds in his mind and opened up the tightened muscles, creating a violent vibration like the bombardment of cannonballs. At the same time, Peng Qingguang quickly turned his back and shook his shoulders. Bam! Peng Qingguang's 2 tattered martial arts shoes opened and turned into butterflies fluttering above the cracks on the ground. Lu Qing was like a kite with a broken string. He was thrown out of the air and fell a few meters away. Peng Qingguang barely blocked the killing move of Thunder Roar Zen, in this desperate situation with only a simple sitting position. But he didn't feel good. His joints, fascias and muscles were visibly trembling. His chi and blood were rolling crazily. His internal organs were shaking. Every part of his body was buzzing and trembling. He was out of control. Lu Qing just landed on the ground and took a few steps forward. He was adjusting his muscles and recovering his center of gravity. He was also accumulating strength. Bam! He stepped on a green brick with his right foot and turned around. Like a fierce eagle, he pounced on Peng Qingguang again. He wanted to seize the opportunity when Peng Qingguang hadn't fully recovered from the violent vibration and give him another Thunder Roar Zen. Kill him while he's down. Lu Qing pounced on Peng Qingguang for a few meters. He tightened the muscles of his right arm and swayed his back. He shook the fascias of his torso and was about to launch a powerful mountain blast punch. The third strike of Thunder Roar Zen. Peng Qingguang's body hadn't fully recovered from the vibration. He didn't dare to block it directly. He stepped on the ground with his bare foot and swept backward. He landed a few meters away steadily. Lu Qing didn't show any mercy. He stepped forward with his left foot and broke the green brick. With the help of the rebound, he pounced on Peng Qingguang again. His right hand was ready to launch the tremor punch. Peng Qingguang stepped on the ground again and continued to sweep backward. He quickly dodged to a few meters away. His dodging was similar to Lin Kei's when he dodged Wei Xingtian's attack. The difference was that Lin Kei was like a nimble mountain goat while Lu Qing was like a flying goose. Lu Qing didn't feel frustrated at all. His eyes were firm and his mind was calm. He stepped on the ground with his right foot and continued to attack. He didn't give Peng Qingguang any chance to catch his breath. After retreating 3 times in a row, Peng Qingguang stood at the edge of the ring. His feet suddenly stopped, like a dam standing in front of a flood. His body suddenly straightened. When he retreated for the second time, the vibration in his body was almost recovered. He retreated again just to launch a counterattack. Peng Qingguang lowered his center of gravity and condensed his qi and blood into a single point. His right hand first swung back and then turned into a long spear. With a terrifying explosion of strength and the shaking of his snake-like muscles, Peng Qingguang thrust the spear at Lu Qing. Lu Qing, who had exhausted his momentum. Lu Qing didn't dodge at all. He swung his right arm with the courage to meet an enemy in a narrow path. The explosion made a thunderous sound and ignited the tremor Zen. Bang! The two collided. Peng Qingguang's qi and blood were rolling over. He felt dizzy and his chest was tight. But his explosion just now offset most of the vibration, so his body didn't tremble violently. Lu Qing, on the other hand, was forced to take 3 steps back, crushing several green bricks. Only then was he able to neutralize the boundless force and stabilize his body. At this time, Peng Qingguang had counterattacked and got close to him. He took half a step forward and hit him with the crushing punch. For him, after 3 explosions, his body was close to its limit. If he was hit by 2 or 3 more tremor punches, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. Moreover, his opponent had prepared a feint attack, so he couldn't judge in advance. He had to rely on his eyes, ears and other senses to help identify. In this way it would be difficult for him to attack back. He would always try to win the vital points and force his opponent to give up. Therefore he had to get close to his opponent. He had to fight at close range and not give his opponent a chance to compress his muscles and use the tremor punch. Bang! Lu Qing stabilized in time and swung his fist down to block Peng Qingguang's crushing punch. But Peng Qingguang leaned on his left foot and slightly leaned his body, followed by an elbow attack. Lu Qing had to give up the idea of borrowing strength. He exploded the strength of his left shoulder and blocked with his hand. Bang! 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 The two people kept colliding in the small space. Hands, wrists, elbows, shoulders, knees, toes and other parts hit one after another. The result was decided in an instant. The referee at the side was nervous and became more cautious. Because every year, more than 70% of the cases of injuries and deaths due to not being able to stop in time were in this kind of close combat situation. The sound of punches and kicks was endless. In such a close combat, Lu Qing didn't have a chance to use the tremor Zen. Even the strength of his legs became rushed. He was suppressed by Peng Qingguang in terms of strength. But his mind was cold, his judgment was calm and his moves were firm. Plus, his big and small hand wrap was flexible and fierce, so he didn't panic. He believed that Peng Qingguang would become weaker as the fight went on. In the heat of the battle, both of them moved sideways and collided with each other. Bang! Peng Qingguang's body shook. Lu Qing seemed to be a little slower and took a step back. Chance. Peng Qingguang knew that he couldn't fight for a long time. Taking advantage of this rare opportunity, he took a step forward and grabbed Lu Qing's left arm that was dragging behind. He knew that his listening skill was not as good as Lu Qing's, so he didn't grab Lu Qing. When he was about to use force to tear Lu Qing's arm, he suddenly felt that Lu Qing's muscles tightened and stuck inwards, which made his judgment a little bit wrong. At the same time, Lu Qing's spine straightened and his back swayed. The right side of his body swung and his fist quickly and violently punched out like a long-awaited cannonball. Bang! Peng Qingguang hurriedly parried and felt that Lu Qing's strength exploded immediately. Although it was much weaker than before, it was still very scary. His body trembled and his qi and blood were rolling. He saw Lu Qing's left arm free and pulled back. Then he swung it up and hit him fiercely again. Thunder Roar Zen. Bang bang bang. Lu Qing swung his arms and attacked continuously. Peng Qingguang's internal organs were very uncomfortable and his brain was buzzing. Seeing this, Mo Zitsong, the captain of Azure Dragon Squad, suddenly realized something and blurted out, "Tremor Punch. Lu Qing has mastered Tremor Punch." No wonder Peng Qingguang wanted to avoid a head-on fight. No wonder he didn't seize the opportunity to attack before. Tremor Punch? Deng Hua and the other two fighters whispered in surprise. At this moment, Lu Qing swung his right arm again and tightened his muscles. In the thunder reverberating in his brain, he unreasonably hammered down. Thunder Roar Zen hit again. Bang! Peng Qingguang barely parried. His body swayed and his eyes were full of dizziness. He was like a person who was born with impaired hearing and went on a roller coaster ride. Lu Qing shook his left arm like a spear and stopped at Peng Qingguang's throat. Peng Qingguang couldn't even raise his hands. The referee heaved a sigh of relief and announced loudly, "The final round, Lu Qing wins." Lu Qing also heaved a sigh of relief and smiled sincerely, "You're very good. I almost lost. If Peng Qingguang had better martial arts, not to mention the Thunder Roar Zen and the Meteor Force, even the Mega Avalanche would be able to defeat him." Peng Qingguang's brain was buzzing and his body was very uncomfortable. He only saw Lu Qing's mouth open and close but couldn't hear clearly. It was rare that he didn't show his maturity and answered blankly, "What?" Chapter 170. What? In the face of Peng Qingguang's dumbfounded question, Lu Qing was also a little dumbfounded. When he had just finished the fight, his blood was boiling, so he expressed his feelings and said a few words from the bottom of his heart. It was normal. But as time passed, it would be more King embarrassing if he had to repeat it again. He could only keep a polite smile and said, "You are very good." That was true. Last week, when he fought with Kid Xia's brother in Tiantong Taoist Temple, he relied on the element of surprise, but Peng Qingguang had almost no power to fight back. If he had used Kid Xia's two kung fu skills on Peng Qingguang, he would have lost. Thinking of this, Lu Qing was about to say something, but his ears suddenly buzzed. He heard a burst of deafening shouts around him, "Lu Qing! Lu Qing!" Most of the audience were students. Although they couldn't understand the turbulent undercurrent in the fight between the two, and they couldn't tell how terrible the shock force was, they had eyes after all. They could see the cracks on the ground like a spider web when Peng Qingguang burst out several times. They could see Lu Qing step on the black bricks and understand the thrill of the close combat between the two of them. They could also clearly see the beauty of Lu Qing swinging his arms and hammering again and again. That was the pinnacle of pure physical violence. That was a scene that showed off the beauty of strength. That hammering seemed to have hammered into the hearts of the audience, bit by bit, hammering away their disguises and the walls that they had built up. It allowed them to vent the emotions that they had been suppressing day after day, boiling with the purest of hot-bloodedness. This feeling made many students who were used to controlling their emotions feel uncomfortable. After the referee announced the result, they were a little confused and there was a short pause. But soon they couldn't hold it and shouted that name, "Lu Qing." The shouts of 2,000 to 3,000 people converged into a storm. If they materialized, it would be enough to blow away the dome of the martial arts arena. However, in such a lively atmosphere, there were 4 people who felt as if a basin of cold water had been poured over their heads in the dead of winter. They felt cold from the top of their heads to the soles of their feet, and from the surface of their bodies to their bones. "How can we fight like this?" Deng Hua, who had a Mohican hairstyle, was quite confident and relaxed when he came to Songqing University. But after Lu Qing's Thunder Roar Zen, his confidence fell to the bottom. When Mo Zitsong shouted the 2 words "Tremor Punch," he was full of despair. Seeing his mouth open and close, Mo Zitsong and the others' faces turned ashen. Against Lu Qing, a tag team battle was ineffective. However, judging from the match between him and Fearless Squad, his own strength had yet to reach the level where he could sweep away most of the 9th pin fighters. This left an opportunity. As long as any one of the 4 of them fought hard enough, even if they couldn't win against him, they would still be able to let their next comrade win. At that time, although Lin Ke was strong, he didn't have abnormal stamina. The 2 of them could take turns to challenge each other and win. As for the remaining contestant from Songqing University, they didn't care about him at all. However, Lu Qing suddenly mastered Tremor Punch in just 2 weeks. Without any method to restrain him, who would dare to face him head-on? If they didn't face him head-on, how could they fight hard enough? What was more frightening was that even if Lin Ke, a top professional ninth pin fighter, had mastered a martial art similar to tremor punch. He could only hit them 3 or 4 times at most, which was not enough to defeat them. If they were cautious and careful, they would still have a chance to face him head-on or avoid him. But Lu Qing had mastered tremor punch. It was different. He could swing his arms and shake continuously. Most of the professional ninth pin fighters couldn't stand it. If Peng Qingguang couldn't stand it, they who were weaker than him certainly couldn't stand it either. How could they fight? Bang bang bang. Mo Zizong seemed to hear the sound of tremor punch in his heart. He saw himself and the others were beaten down the arena one by Lu Qing. None of them could withstand more than 3 attacks. How could they fight? They looked at each other and saw the fear in each other's eyes, which was completely different from the relaxed attitude they had when they came here. They watched the strong enemy until they lost all their confidence and dared not to fight. When Zhao Chang, Zhang Jingye, and the others threw away their usual image of good students and shouted and vented, Lu Qing first met Yanjika's eyes in the martial arts club's seating area and silently waved his fist. Then he saw Peng Qingguang shake his head and barely recover. After a salute, he walked down the arena and walked to Gao Rao, Zhang Ying, and the other junior brothers and sisters who were dumbfounded. After Lu Qing returned the salute, he wanted to ask Peng Qingguang why he didn't ally with other martial arts clubs to pursue the martial arts unique skill reward of the preliminaries. But he felt that they didn't know each other well, so he suppressed the question. Lu Qing. Lu Qing. Echoing in the martial arts stadium, Lu Qing released the joy in his heart. He didn't think about anything else and enjoyed the sweet taste of victory to his heart's content. He raised his hands and applauded while walking back to the home team's seat. He high-fived Yan Zhika, Lin Ke, Sun Jian, Li Mao, and the others to celebrate. At this time, some students came back to their senses. Looking at the many broken bricks in the arena, they suddenly remembered the video of the jumper and the martial artist who saved the student. He also stepped on the ground and made a similar crack. Comparing the figure, he suddenly realized and shouted, "It's Lu Qing who saved the student." Yes, it's not Lin Quebec. It must be him. 1 spread to 10, 10 spread to 100. The shouting in the martial arts stadium weakened a lot, but the flashing of mobile phones came one after another. Many students were so excited that their faces turned red. They looked at Lu Qing with admiration and talked excitedly with their companions around them. The warm atmosphere didn't decrease but increased. In the seats of Mingwei Martial Arts Club, Zhang Ying, Chu Yu, and the others were speechless and fell into an extremely depressed silence. It seemed that they couldn't accept eldest brother's failure even more than him. Peng Qingguang glanced at them and listened to the shouts echoing in the martial arts stadium. He smiled bitterly and said, "What's there to be sad about? What's so unacceptable about losing to such an opponent? It will only spur me to not slack off and make me want to catch up." After that, he turned around and looked at Songqing University Martial Arts Club subconsciously. When that time comes, what level will Lu Qing be at? After applying the ointment for Lu Qing in the locker room and being kissed by him several times when no one was around, Yanjika returned to the dormitory with her eyebrows and eyes watery. For the time being, she didn't tell Lu Qing that her mother might come to check on him. She planned to discuss with her boyfriend after thinking about the countermeasures. As soon as she stepped into the dormitory, she saw Zhong Yenru and Shi Xiangyang around Li Liantong. They were looking at her mobile phone and whispering praises from time to time. "It's really amazing. How did he grow his feet? It's so tiring to wear shoes in a martial arts competition." Hearing that, Yanjika was happy and blurted out, "Dirty Tong, you finished the video?" This was the video she asked her roommate to help her record. Only Lu Cheng's part was included. It was hard to say when a recorded match would be broadcasted. But the match between Lu Cheng and Peng Qingguang was very memorable. She wanted to get the video as soon as possible and save it for her boyfriend. "Of course. We all recorded a video for your meal and didn't pay attention to the match," Li Liantong answered proudly. Yanjika was so happy that she urged, "Let me see. Is it blurry?" Li Liantong laughed. "How is it possible? Please call me a video expert." While talking, Yanjika moved closer to them and watched the video carefully, recalling what happened yesterday. Last week, because the recording of her first match was delayed until Friday, she almost forgot to save it. Luckily, Qing always remembered this and set the alarm. During class, he ran back to the dormitory with the excuse of diarrhea and finished the recording online. Because they were in the same teaching building and she was sitting by the window, she happened to see Qing sprinting to the dormitory area. So she sent him a message and asked what happened. His answer made her eyes red and her heart warm. That was why she asked Li Liantong and her roommates to help her record the match today. Zhika watched the video from beginning to end and was very satisfied. While asking Li Liantong to copy the video to the computer, she mentioned that her mom might come to check on her. She put her palms together and said, "When my mom comes, if I'm not in the dormitory, just tell her the truth. Just don't mention Cheng and tell her that I went shopping with Guqing on the weekend." Zhong Yanru was a little confused. Will your mom fly here? Just to tell her that she has a boyfriend? Zhika put on a serious face and nodded hard. "I think she will. Let me tell you. My mom's biggest feature is that she is very active. She will either not come or come in the next few days. If she wasn't active, she wouldn't have dared to elope. I feel like I'm going to face Empress Dowager soon." Shi Xiangyang was a little scared and joked. After telling her roommates, Zhika took out the freshman handbook from the bookshelf and found the map of the new campus that occupied 2 pages. She sat down, took out a ruler and drew on the map. She looked more beautiful as she concentrated. Li Liantong and her roommates were stunned and didn't understand what she was doing. Looking at the map and measuring the distance, Zhika's eyes moved up and she whispered to herself, "If my mom suddenly attacks, she probably wants to secretly observe. But she's not familiar with the school's terrain and my class schedule. With her intelligence, she definitely won't wait among tens of thousands of people. She will choose a place where she has a high chance of meeting me and can watch from afar. According to this condition, there are only 3 places she can choose. One is the place near the entrance of the dormitory, where she can directly see everyone coming back from the cafeteria. 2 is the end of the long bridge near the teaching area, where anyone who wants to go back to the dormitory or to the cafeteria can't escape her eyes. 3 is the place where the martial arts stadium comes out. She is of professional 9th pin. According to the data, her observation range is about this large." Zhika bit her lower lip and carefully outlined 3 dangerous areas on the map. Then she nodded with satisfaction. "Well, as long as Qing doesn't get close to me in these areas, my mom won't find out." She was about to praise herself when she suddenly saw Li Liantong come to her side and said with a strange face, Can't you just ask Lu Qing to keep a distance from you for a few days? What calculation, what inference, what observation range, what dangerous areas? What kind of brain circuit is this?" Zhika blinked her eyes innocently and said, with an Chapter 171. After so many rounds of Thunder Roar Zen, Lu Qing was also quite tired. His physical strength was fine, but his mind couldn't bear it anymore. Tightening and compressing specific muscles and controlling them until they exploded when colliding with the enemy was definitely not something that could be done easily. Not to mention that he had to punch and attack during the process. After this battle, Lu Qing estimated that his current limit was 10 consecutive strikes of Thunder Roar Zen. He had more than enough strength but not enough heart. Because of this, he didn't try to seduce Zhika to stay in the locker room and whisper sweet nothings. Instead, he accepted her suggestion to come back early, take a nap, and go to study together in the evening. At this time, Kai Zongming and others had not come back yet. Lu Qing was lying in bed, still excited and happy. He couldn't fall asleep quickly, so he picked up his phone and browsed his own fan forum. As soon as he opened it, he saw Eternal Nightfall rolling around and acting cute. "It's a recording again. I'm going to die if I don't see Lu Qing again." Corresponding to her, Brahmin also made a post and said seriously, "I'm going to call Songqing TV station to complain." "Well, shouldn't you call to give suggestions?" Nye Chi felt a little confused about the little girl's thinking. Brahmin said with an angry emoji, "Little Nightfall and I have already called to propose. They didn't listen. I'm going to complain." Eternal Nightfall quickly followed up with a reply, "That's right. They even said in all seriousness, 'Sorry, this is the broadcasting arrangement of our television station. Please pay attention to the recording and broadcasting time.' This broadcasting tone is really good. I want to beat them to death." Lu Qing wanted to laugh. After browsing this post, he opened another one. He saw that Unparalleled Dragon King was taking refuge here. He said with a lingering fear, "Never reason with girls, especially 2 underage ones. Yeah, the generation gap is as deep as the Mariana Trench." Okamoto's fan shook hands with tears. "But, seriously, how can you be sure that they are girls? Once they take off their pants, they may be thicker and longer than you, Manual Funny." In the past few days they had made a series of efforts to persuade, comfort and convince Eternal Nightfall and Brahmin, but they had all failed miserably. Instead, they had been angrily rebuked by the 2 girls for dozens of streets. Without the live broadcast, the number of fans I've worked so hard to increase has gone down again. Lu Qing sighed, exited the post and returned to the homepage. At this moment he noticed a familiar ID appearing at the top of the post. Lu Qing's girlfriend. Cuckoo? Lu Qing was surprised and subconsciously looked at the title of the post. Video, Songqing Division Preliminaries, Lu Qing vs Peng Qingguang. Where did the video come from? Shocked and confused, he clicked on the post and found that Yan Zhika only left a video in 3 words. You're welcome. Lu Qing was stunned and chose to play the video. Immediately he saw himself walking up the ring step by step. Peng Qingguang had already positioned himself and made an inviting gesture. The whole video was shot from a relatively far distance, so it couldn't show the facial expressions and other details. But the cameraman's hands were steady, so the picture was quite clear. Sometimes the cameraman even aimed at the big screen to make up for the shortcomings of the long-distance camera. The fierce battle was reproduced in a relatively complete way. Shot from the stands, Kuka got it so quickly. She must have specially asked Dirty Tong to shoot it. Lu Qing was surprised and vaguely guessed the truth. He remembered that yesterday he had run nearly 2 kilometers in order to shoot the video of Yanjika's first battle in time. While he was wholeheartedly doing something for his lover, she was also wholeheartedly doing something for him. Lu Qing felt both joy and warmth. His heart was filled with an inexplicable feeling and indescribable satisfaction. He really wanted to run to Yanjika and hug her tightly. This feeling was too good. Holding the phone, he smiled and turned over on the bed. Unable to hold back his emotions, he opened the contact list and selected Yanjika's phone number. In just a few seconds, a sweet and mechanical voice came into his ears. Sorry, the number you have dialed is busy right now. Please try again later. Yanjika stood on the balcony looking at the drizzle outside. Spring was in full bloom. Hello, Mom, why did you suddenly call me? She held the phone and pretended to be surprised. At the other end of the phone was a clear but mature voice. You little girl, I'm your mother. Do I need a reason to call you when I miss you? Yanjika chuckled and said, I was thinking of you, Mom, who are busy every day. Besides, I just called you 2 days ago. No matter how busy I am, it's not as important as my daughter. The mature woman laughed and said, I heard from your Uncle Xie that you have a boyfriend? Yanjika wanted to say no, but she didn't want to deny the boyfriend thing. Inexplicably, she was afraid that her words would come true, so she said in a spoiled manner, Don't listen to him. It's all Uncle's fault for bringing Xie Tianke and the others here without even mentioning it. It made me super embarrassed. I couldn't stand it, so I asked my friends from the martial arts club for help. She subconsciously didn't say the words shield. Why did your friends from the martial arts club go to Tiantong Taoist temple with you? The mature woman pretended to ask casually. Yanjika had already prepared a draft in her mind. To visit my cousin. The mature woman chuckled and said, Isn't your cousin mildly autistic? How come there are friends who are willing to travel such a long distance to visit him? Mom, you don't understand. This is the battle friendship between men. Yanjika tried to make herself lively so that her mother wouldn't find anything strange. He cooperated with my cousin and defeated an 8th Pindan stage fighter by taking turns to fight him. They kind of appreciate each other. He's a strong fighter of professional 9th Pin? Haha, your cousin can only make friends on the martial path. The mature woman seemed to be relieved of her doubts and said, Ko, your dad and I don't approve of you dating in college, not because it's old-fashioned, but because we think that real love should only appear after you have experienced more, seen more, and broadened your vision. At that time, you can understand what kind of relationship you really want. Besides, Ko, have you forgotten your dream? Every time you tell us what you want to do in the future and what you plan to pursue, you are so beautiful that I can't help but be jealous. I always think that I can't let those bastards cheat our little princess away. Yanjika listened quietly with a smile on her face. Her dimples were shallow and contained warmth. She felt her mother's love from these words, so she didn't refute and just promised, Mom, don't worry, I won't date casually. Yes, I won't date casually. I'm very serious, and I like to date very much. The phone call didn't go through. Lu Qing was so tired that he fell into a deep sleep. After an hour, he woke up naturally. He picked up his phone and refreshed it, intending to see the replies in the video post. On the second floor, Eternal Nightfall sent a jumping emoji. You're welcome. I'll just bow one bow. Brahman followed closely. 2 bows. Nyechichi also said, 3 bows. Unparalleled Dragon King wiped his cold sweat and said, Only a family return gift is left to play the morning music. After these few posts they didn't reply for a long time. Obviously they went to watch the video of the competition. The feeling of a candid shot makes me feel like I'm watching an AV. Said Eternal Nightfall with a funny emoji. To be honest, after only 2 weeks of not watching Lu Cheng's matches, I can't even recognize the person on the stage as him. He's much fiercer than before, much bolder and more powerful than before. After a series of sighs, Brahmin laughed with arms akimbo. Little Nightfall, you are getting more and more dirty. But that's not the point. The point is that my idol is more handsome, more handsome, more handsome. Important things must be said 3 times. He is so manly, love-struck emoji. Unparalleled Dragon King expressed his doubts. I don't understand. There are so many strange details in the competition. At this time, Road to the Arena, who had come in at some point, said, if I'm not wrong, Lu Cheng has mastered Tremor Punch. Tremor Punch? No wonder. Unparalleled Dragon King sent an emoji of slapping its thigh. After only 2 weeks of not watching, he has become a living person and mastered Tremor Punch. This is an amazing martial art. Road to the Arena sent a funny emoji. Even if all the professional 9th pin fighters in the country were to be listed, Lu Cheng, who has mastered Tremor Punch, would be among the top. He is only a little bit behind. If I were to fight with him again, I would definitely be beaten to a pulp within 3 punches. So it is Tremor Punch. Although I don't understand it very well, I feel that it is very powerful. Eternal Nightfall replied excitedly. After some discussion, Okamoto's fans said, come on, let's celebrate Lu Cheng's mastery of Tremor Punch. I will continue to drive. You are not the driver. Unparalleled Dragon King said after cursing. From the video, the ID Lu Cheng's girlfriend is a student of Songqing University. Yes. Lu Cheng's girlfriend appeared and replied with an obedient sitting straight. Seeing this, Lu Cheng felt happy and continued to scroll down. Really? Then what gossip do you know? Does my idol have a girlfriend? Brahmin asked curiously. Yes. Yenjika replied with a righteous emoji. Eternal Nightfall was also interested. Who? Do you have a picture? Is it his classmate? It's me. Look at my ID. Yenjika covered her mouth and laughed. I don't even know if you are a boy or a girl. Unparalleled Dragon King wiped his cold sweat again. Yenjika replied immediately. Of course it's a girl. A cute girl. When she said that, the others did not believe her. Only Eternal Nightfall said with a bright and piercing gaze, I will believe whatever you say. As long as you are a good undercover and often tell us about Lu Cheng's situation. No, I have made up my mind. Dad. I'm your long-lost son. After a burst of laughter, Lu Cheng's girlfriend didn't appear. Little Nightfall, he was scared away by your filth. Brahmin said with disdain. How am I filthy? Eternal Nightfall felt wronged. Isn't it filthy to call anyone your dad? Brahmin laughed. Seeing this, Lu Cheng exited the forum and called Yenjika with a smile. He was a little proud of today's victory but not arrogant. Even Peng Qingguang, who didn't have any good martial arts skills, could almost defeat him. What about those professional 9th pin fighters with inheritance, talent and strong support? On the way back, the 4 members of the Azure Dragon squad fell into a depressed atmosphere. Depression echoed in the silence. Suddenly, Deng Hua with a Mohican hairstyle said in a low voice, I have an idea. Chapter 172. What is it? Mo Zitsong, the captain of Azure Dragon Squad, looked back at Deng Hua from the passenger seat. Lu Cheng had mastered Tremor Punch and Lin Ke was about to come back. No matter how he thought about it, he was sure to lose. What else could he do? Deng Hua touched his Mohican hairstyle, exhaled and said, We apply for a special competition format. Stool, are you stupid? We don't know how to make a formation. Zhu Tao, the bald tough guy with whiskers, looked at his companion as if he was an idiot. The special competition format was to apply for 3 people to fight at the same time with the excuse that one's own team was good at formations instead of fighting alone. The opponent could use formations to break through formations, or they could use 6 people to fight against formations. The Azure Dragon Squad was a combination of several dojos. Not to mention whether or not there was such a thing as a formation, even if there was, the 4 different professional martial artists with different backgrounds would have mastered completely different things, so how could there be a formation? Su Zheng, who was in charge of driving, couldn't help but laugh and scold, Stool, don't be so whimsical. Damn it, Songqing University Martial Arts Club must have taken the wrong medicine to participate in the preliminaries. Now we have to wait for next year. When they first formed the team, they were very confident and thought that no matter which group they were assigned to, they would be able to win. Who knew that Songqing University Martial Arts Club would come out halfway? And Pan Qingyun from Hongluo Martial Arts School was also a professional ninth pin fighter. Together with Jiang Guoxing and Fang Tong, they were not to be underestimated. This was a once-in-a-decade death group. Deng Hua had thought through the details and smiled. We don't know how to make a formation, but the substitutes of Songqing University Martial Arts Club are very weak. Is you tell us in detail. Mo Zitsong took a breath and vaguely grasped the key point. Deng Hua said with a smile, we can't resist Lu Cheng's tremor punch and we can't beat Lin Ke who is coming back. But we can barely be considered as strong professional ninth pin fighters. If we know the information in advance, we won't lose so easily, right? We have enough strength to hold them back for a while, right? For example, if you fight Lin Ke, you won't be killed in seconds, right? If you deliberately hold them back, you can at least hold on for 2 or 3 minutes, right? I'm quite confident about this. Mo Zitsong nodded slightly and roughly understood Deng Hua's idea. Deng Hua glanced at the bald Zhu Tao and laughed. Brother Tsong, leave Lin Ke to me and I'll deal with Lu Cheng. The rest of Songqing University's martial artists are all amateurs. They barely have the strength of first pin. Do you have the confidence to defeat 4 amateur martial artists of second and third pin in a short time? Ants can bite an elephant to death. I can only say that it's half and half, Zhu Tao answered cautiously. Isn't this settled? Deng Hua raised his voice and said, after you deal with those amateur fighters, you can join us to besiege Lin Ke or Lu Cheng. Do you think they can grow 3 heads and 6 arms? If they are impatient in the middle, they might even make mistakes. Stool is right. If we don't do this, we won't even have a 10% chance of winning. We can only hope that Lu Cheng and Lin Ke don't perform well on the spot. But with the special competition system, we have at least a 50% chance of winning. Mo Zitsong agreed happily. Let's apply as soon as possible. It'll be hard to get approved if we're late. Once the special competition system was used, there would be a big mess in the ring. One referee was not enough, even if there was a competition supervisor. They had to make arrangements in advance. So the earlier they applied, the easier it would be to get approved. Of course, the Azure Dragon Squad also thought that they had some connections to make the organizing committee believe in the formation. Alright. Zhu Tao and Su Zheng shouted in unison, recovering their previous emotions and high fighting spirit. Yan Zhika closed the computer cover and was about to wash the clothes in the basin when she suddenly heard her phone vibrating. She picked it up and found that it was Cheng calling. Unconsciously, she smiled and walked back to the balcony, closing the glass door that separated the inside from the outside. Sorry, the number you have dialed is busy right now. Please try again later. Yan Zhika's eyes moved and she said clearly. How could Lu Cheng not recognize his girlfriend's voice? He was immediately amused and laughed. Which operator will say that the number is busy after a long time? Yan Zhika smiled. I'm just afraid that you're stupid. If I say, sorry, the number you have dialed is busy right now, you might believe me. Her light and lively tone affected Lu Cheng, making him feel better. He smiled and said softly, I saw the video you posted on the forum. Yan Zhika's dimples appeared and she felt a little shy. She raised her chin slightly and said, I'm sorry but I don't know what to say. What are you talking about? I don't understand. The reason why she chose to upload the video to the forum instead of sending it to Lu Cheng was because she was shy. She couldn't possibly tell her boyfriend that she had specially asked Dirty Tong to record a video for him so that he and his fans could see it in advance. That would be too embarrassing. Of course, if Lu Cheng didn't check the forum in the afternoon, she was prepared to send the video to him without explaining anything and then say, come on, praise me. Lu Cheng laughed again when he heard the girl's confused answer. His heart was even warmer. He asked, how much did you pay? Yan Zhika didn't deny it again. She leaned against the windowsill in the living room and smiled. A meal. After that she said proudly, I feel that IDs like Lu Cheng's XXX are going to be popular. A lot of them just now. What are they? Lu Cheng asked happily and curiously. If they weren't talking on the phone, he would have sent a doting smile emoji. Yan Zhika pursed her lips and looked at the sky. She raised her voice and said, I'm not telling you. After chatting happily for a while, she thought of something important. She took a breath and said, Cheng, my mom may come over in a few days. Lu Cheng was shocked. Why is your mom coming all of a sudden? Most men were instinctively afraid of mothers-in-law, just like facing Empress Dowager. It's all because of Uncle Xie. Yanzhika pushed all the responsibility to Xie Qingzhen. Xie Tianke wasn't the only one who saw us holding hands that day. His dad also saw us. We didn't notice it and didn't remind him. When he visited my grandpa 2 days ago, he mentioned it casually. Then my mom knew about it. Fortunately, my brother covered for us and said that I asked for help because I was annoyed by Xie Tiang's pestering. After that, she silently opened her mouth and said to herself, "It's my cousin who said it, not me." Fortunately, Yanzhika finished her words in one breath. Lu Qing was not scared out of his wits. He said with lingering fear, "It's all my fault. I didn't want to waste the time with you. Will your mom really come over to patrol?" Hearing the first half of her boyfriend's words, Yanzhika's 2 dimples quietly bloomed. She said in a serious tone, "Trust me. My mom is a very capable person. I even suspect that she's on her way to the airport." His explanation alone was definitely not enough to make his smart mom completely believe him. Phew. Lu Qing exhaled and said with some disappointment and reluctance, "Then we should keep a good distance these days?" Yanzhika gently bit her lower lip with her pearly white teeth. She thought for a while and said, "It's not that serious. As long as we pay attention to the 3 sections from the martial arts arena to the teaching area, from the water conference hall to the long bridge, and from the entrance of the pedestrian street to my dormitory, we won't be afraid. My mom can't just wander around the campus like a headless fly, right?" "You're right. There are so many people in the cafeteria during mealtime. There are so many tables in the cafeteria. It's very unlikely that she'll see us." Lu Qing cheered up and happily agreed. "But how did you determine these 3 sections?" "Deducing." Yanzhika suddenly blushed, delicate and beautiful. Just because of this, Dirty Tong laughed at her for having abnormal brain circuits. After a few words on this topic, she asked a little worriedly, "Qing, are you a little unhappy? Do you feel that we have to be sneaky and hide?" Lu Qing said sincerely, "No. In fact, I feel a little guilty. I feel that I'm not good enough for you. If I really want to meet your mom now, I don't have the courage. I'm not confident that I'll leave a bad impression on your mom. If the first impression is bad, it'll be very difficult to turn it around. There will be more resistance when we're together in the future. I've been working hard to improve myself. I hope to be good enough to meet your mom and dad when I'm ready. I want to let them feel that I'm very reliable at first and that they can entrust their daughter to me without worry. Besides, I know that I confessed too early and too suddenly. Until now, you still can't say that you've completely adapted and accepted it. If there's more external pressure, I'm afraid you'll feel that this relationship is too tiring, too troublesome, and too restrictive. So, it's not bad to be sneaky now." Quietly listening to Lu Qing's somewhat messy and somewhat inarticulate explanation, Yanzhika suddenly felt that Lu Qing valued and slightly clumsy love from the bottom of his heart. Her heart warmed and her eyes turned red. She said in a low voice, "Qing, actually I like you very much already." "What?" Lu Qing asked blankly. Yanzhika gently bit her pink lips and said with a faint smile, "Nothing, just a shout. As for the fact that I like you very much, I'll tell you in the future when I have the chance. Mother-in-law is coming?" Lu Qing was a little dazed when he put down the phone. He felt that he should do something, but after careful consideration he thought that not doing anything was the best response. The more he did, the more likely he would make mistakes and be found out. "Sigh, I can't believe that I'm only 19 years old and I'm already experiencing the majesty of a mother-in-law." He laughed at himself. He was a little puzzled by his classmates who fell in love early in middle school or high school. What kind of feelings did they have when facing their mother-in-law? Or could it be that they never met her? After spending some time to calm down, he casually browsed the forum. Suddenly he saw that Road to the Arena and Unparalleled Dragon King were discussing his master in the order of himself, Songqing University Martial Arts Club, coach. "Old Dragon, you're the humanoid database I admire the most. Do you know the background of Coach Shi of Songqing University Martial Arts Club?" Road to the Arena asked curiously. "I've asked around and searched, but I couldn't find anything related to him. Logically speaking, with the Ice Sect inheritance, surname, and suspected physical invulnerability, it should be easy to find him." Unparalleled Dragon King sent a bitter smile emoji. "I've searched, but I still can't find anything. Even on the list of preliminaries official website, his name is also Coach Shi. I'm beginning to suspect that his real name is Coach Shi. However, surname Shi and Ice Sect inheritance, I have a feeling that he has something to do with Shi Yuejian of Wuyue Club. Of course, he could also be using a fake surname. Chapter 173. Shueyuejian. Lu Qing chewed on the name. He was no stranger to this name. As a good youth in the internet age, he had tried to search for his master's full name to learn more about him. However, the result was similar to that of Unparalleled Dragon King in Road to the Arena. Unique skills of the Ice Sect, and Shi, could only identify Shueyuejian, a mighty one with physical invulnerability from Wuxia Club. Lu Qing strongly suspected that this was the daughter of Geezer Shi, his senior sister. However, he was not completely sure. After all, who knew if his master's surname was really Shi? Why did he have to be so mysterious? Lu Qing complained. However, when he remembered that Geezer Shi had a close relationship with the military, he felt relieved. Unparalleled Dragon King continued his analysis. Judging from Coach Shi's appearance and age, he should be a master in the beginning stage of professional competitions. There was no internet back then and TV broadcasting was not developed. The remaining videos of his matches today are all famous battles. Anyway, I don't remember any mighty one like him. I even suspect that he didn't fight much in the challenge tournament. Are you saying that he grew up through life and death battles? Road to the Arena was obviously shocked. It's just a suspicion. However, in the era of professional competitions and title matches, when many areas were in turmoil, it's not strange for him to take the path of life and death battles, Unparalleled Dragon King explained. Reading this, Lu Qing suddenly remembered something Geezer Shi had once said. Before he reached the physical invulnerability stage, he had taken an adventure in the war-torn zones and killed a strong enemy with the Thunder Roar Zen. This was very consistent with Unparalleled Dragon King's inference. Lu Qing scrolled down but there was no more information. He exited the forum and talked to Yan Zhika about this matter while waiting for dinner. The next morning by the Weishui Lake. In high spirits, Lu Qing came to the usual place and practiced the yin-yang stance one by one according to the usual order. However, compared to the past, he reduced the number of times he practiced the 24 blizzard strikes and other martial arts that he had long mastered so as to spare more time to further master the Thunder Roar Zen and repeatedly ponder the essence of the visualization diagram. The ice field was boundless, the snow was boundless, and the cold wind was howling. It was bone-chilling. Lu Qing studied the visualization diagram a few times. He closed his eyes and concentrated his spirit and qi. Once again he sketched the image of the cold and frozen land in his mind. He combined it with the feeling of winter he had experienced in the past to make the image as realistic as possible. How cold was it? It was cold to wear a cotton sweater, a thick sweater, and a down jacket. How piercing was the wind? It was bone-piercing, as if it was a knife. Thoughts flashed through his mind, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't combine his daily experience with the images he visualized. Gradually, those thoughts rose and fell one after another, gradually becoming chaotic. He could no longer control his mind and had no choice but to withdraw from the concealment state. You're too impatient today. Geezer Shi chuckled. Yeah. Lu Qing exhaled and responded in a low voice. He had also noticed his own problem just now. He was too impatient and not relaxed enough. It was obviously something difficult to get started with. He should have been in a leisurely mood, quietly comprehending it, and not in a hurry for success. However, he always wanted to achieve it in one go, so it was counterproductive. As for why he suddenly became impatient, it was because of the inexplicable pressure in his heart. 'Cause mother was coming. Mother-in-law was coming. After setting a goal for his college career at Tiantong Taoist Temple, his path was clear and he had more motivation to work hard. However, since there were still 3.5 years to go, the urgency and pressure weren't that serious. But now, suddenly the Empress Dowager was coming. Even if he didn't have to face it himself, the goal seemed to be in front of him all of a sudden. It was clear that he could reach out and touch it, constantly reminding himself. Therefore, it was inevitable that he wanted to prove something, which added to his impatience. He breathed in the fresh air and calmed his mind. He didn't panic and re-entered the state of meditation. How can I grasp the essence and charm of the visualization diagram? Can I only rely on observation and experience every day and accumulate it bit by bit? I wonder if using a natural environment similar to the visualization diagram can speed up the process of grasping it? However, only a 1 in a million genius or mighty ones with extremely deep accumulation can comprehend nature. Can I do it? Even if I can, I don't have the time. Where can I find the time and money to go to the North Pole or the South Pole? Can I simplify it and go to places like the Ice Paradise or the Alpine Ski Resort? All kinds of ideas flashed in Lu Qing's mind. He pondered whether using nature to assist his visualization would work, and at the same time he considered a suitable location. Considering my status as a student and the fact that my personal savings have plummeted after the date gift, this method doesn't seem realistic. At this moment, Lu Cheng's eyes flashed. He thought of something. He thought of something that could replace the natural environment for his comprehension. Why am I so stupid? He scolded himself in his mind. If there was a ready-made sense of ice to assist him, why would he ask for external help? The Jindan in his body is half fire and half ice. I can totally calm my spirit and comprehend the ice in the Jindan. Suddenly Lu Cheng was enlightened. He felt that everything in front of him had become clear and refreshing. This is definitely a little dangerous. But isn't my master right beside me? He put his thoughts into action. He calmed his excitement and concealed his spirit and chi again. This time he didn't draw the frozen sky diagram. Instead, he slowly entered the state of inward vision, allowing the Jindan in his lower abdomen to enlarge inch by inch in front of his eyes. The ice crystals were like stars, translucent and dreamy. They slowly rotated around scorching flames of different colors, and reflected their light, making themselves resplendent and brilliant. Gradually, Lu Cheng seemed to be in a vast and boundless starry sky. He couldn't tell up from down, left from right, and couldn't see the ends of the world. He carefully approached a star and enlarged it in front of his eyes, allowing the perfect crystal that was constantly refracting light to touch him. In an instant, Lu Cheng felt as if his spirit and body had been frozen. In front of him was a white, lifeless expanse of whiteness. In his ears was the whistling of the icy wind between heaven and earth. Around him was an extremely low temperature that froze the flames and movement. In just 2 or 3 seconds, his spirit was bounced back. He could only see the nebula in his lower abdomen expanding and contracting, dazzling and enchanting. The wonderful feeling just now was deeply engraved in his mind. At this time, Lu Cheng suddenly understood that if he could experience the visualization diagram a few more times, he should be able to grasp the indescribable essence and charm with the help of the feeling just now. He wanted to try immediately, but he was unusually sleepy. His spirit seemed to have become sluggish. The few seconds just now consumed a lot of energy. He had no choice but to open his eyes again and shake his head. If you're too tired, don't try in a hurry. Geezer Shi calmly looked at him and reminded him. Yes, master. Lu Cheng obeyed. He put away his stance and began to run circles around the lake to complete his morning training. I didn't expect the method of perceiving the Jindan to actually work. While running, he thought joyfully. He always felt that the conception of the Jindan contained many things that were worth exploring. It seemed to hide something that could only be understood. Looking at his back, Geezer Shi smiled slightly and said, Hey, how can you get started with the visualization diagram so quickly? But this little rascal finally has a moment of impatience. Otherwise, this old man would have thought that he was no longer a young man. After the special training on Sunday morning, Lu Cheng didn't leave the martial arts arena with Yan Zhika. Instead, he pulled Kai Zongming and followed the girl and Guiqing in front of him. Cheng, tell us the truth. What did you do wrong? Talker was so witty that he began to interrogate him with a smile. There must be something wrong when things are abnormal. Lu Cheng rolled his eyes at him and said, Her mother is on the way to visit her. So it's your mother-in-law? Xiaoming suddenly realized. Lu Cheng was moved and asked curiously, Hey Talker, have you ever faced a mother-in-law? Kai Zongming clicked his tongue and said, You want to learn from my experience? But I've never seen mother-in-law before. I was stopped by father-in-law once. How did you get blocked? Lu Cheng gossiped and wanted to learn from him. Kai Zongming sighed and said, It was our first love in high school. It was stormy that day. Her mother was on a business trip and her father was working overtime. She was left alone at home and was a little scared. I rushed over to accompany her in the rain. Dry wood is burning hot, But her father was worried about her and specially came back. He saw a strange man's shoes at the door and blocked me in her room. If it weren't for my good skills at that time, I would have been chopped to death by her father. Then she transferred to another school, which made me sad for a long time. There was a little fear and regret in his tone. Lu Cheng didn't say anything to hurt him. Instead, he patted his shoulder and said, Casanova, I believe that you have a lot of setbacks in love. After lunch, Lu Cheng went back to the dormitory and went to the school bus station. After a few minutes, Yan Zhika, who was dressed in youthful clothes, also came. But she didn't greet him and just went to the end of the line. Do you feel like you're meeting an underground gang? Lu Cheng took the initiative to send a message with a snicker to show that he was emotionally stable. Yenjika lowered her head and replied quickly, "If you're an underground gang, you won't survive more than 3 episodes. You keep looking at me. There's such a beautiful and cute girl here. Which guy wouldn't look at her secretly? I'll be found out if I don't look at her, right?" Lu Qing said with a smirk and took the opportunity to compliment her. Because she was worried that they would meet her mother on the school bus, Yenjika requested to move separately. They were only a few steps away from each other and chatted on their phones. Time passed quickly and a school bus came. The door opened and passengers got off. "My mother is not here." Yenjika cheered and said, "Save me a seat later." After getting on the bus, they finally didn't have to worry about the seats next to each other. The underground gang finally met. Yenjika said with a smile. Lu Qing didn't say anything and extended his right hand with a smile. Yenjika pursed her lips and followed suit with her left hand. In silence, their skin touched and their fingers intertwined again. Looking at this scene fondly, they slowly leaned against each other. After arriving at the old campus, they separated again and took a long detour. They left the school through the small north gate and took a bus to Songqing Ocean Aquarium. Looking at the magnificent entrance, Lu Qing suddenly felt a little nervous. Because he didn't know the order of the tour was limited to what he found on the internet, and the introduction of marine life he had memorized was messy. If he wasn't familiar with the process, he would definitely forget a lot of it. He held Yenjika's hand and walked slowly to the ticket office. While chatting, he quickly recalled the content he had memorized. Starfish, after tearing each piece could become a new starfish. Sea urchins, especially timid. Jellyfish, very beautiful but also very dangerous. Devilfish, looking like a bat in the sea. Angelfish, with tassels, swimming like a dance. Just as he was about to finish a part of his memory, Yenjika's phone suddenly rang. She looked at it and quickly made a shoe gesture to Lu Qing. "Mom?" she shouted crisply. A mature female voice came from the other side of the phone. "Ku, you're not in the dormitory?" Hearing Yenjika's address, Lu Qing felt nervous and disappointed. Well, no need to relive it. Chapter 174. Although Yenjika was prepared, she was still a little nervous. She hurriedly switched to her coquettish mode and said, "Yes, I'm shopping with Qing. Mom, why are you asking me this?" "I'm in your dormitory." The mature female voice chuckled. "I wanted to give our little princess a surprise, but I didn't find you." "You're in my dormitory?" Yenjika felt that her acting skills had improved in the past 2 days. Her surprised tone was flawless. "You know your mom's character. I'll do whatever I want. What's so strange about that? I'm in Jianghu for a business deal, so I came to see you on the way." "Ah, your roommates are so polite." The mature female voice laughed. "Go, where are you? I'll come to you directly." Jianghu was the provincial capital of a nearby province. It was only 2 hours away from Songqing by train. "Come here directly?" "Mom, you don't play by the rules." Yenjika was shocked. She hurriedly said, "Mom, it's okay. You wait in the dormitory. I'll be right back." The mature female voice said in an understanding tone, "You promised to go shopping with others, but you're leaving them alone. Isn't it bad? I'll come over and treat your classmates to a meal." Yenjika couldn't help glancing at Lu Qing. Although it was bad to leave him alone, it was even worse that her mom treated him to a meal. She was quick-witted and sold out Li Lientong. "Mom, didn't you say you would treat my roommates to a meal? This is a good opportunity. Qing has a classmate with her." "Well, that's good. Come back quickly." The mature female voice thought for a while and said, "Yes, Mom." Yenjika said cutely. She almost raised her hand to salute. After hanging up the phone, she exhaled. She felt that it was really a battle of wits and courage. Besides, lying was really troublesome. One lie had to be covered with a pile of lies. If it weren't for this idiot beside her, she wouldn't have bothered. "Then I'll take a taxi?" Lu Qing calmed down and shook his phone with a smile. Yenjika touched her chest and said pitifully, "Go ahead. I need to relax. I was so nervous just now. I was so worried that my mom would insist on coming. If that was the case, where would Guqing appear?" She was still taking an afternoon nap in the dormitory. Seeing the girl like this, Lu Qing's heart softened. He completely forgot about the disappointment just now. He quickly chose an address and booked a car. Yenjika paused for a few seconds and glanced at her boyfriend, whose profile was becoming more and more distinct. She asked cautiously, "Qing, are you disappointed? Are you a little unhappy?" Lu Qing felt warm in his heart and said, "Of course, I was a little disappointed because I was looking forward to having a good afternoon with you in the aquarium. But when it comes to such a big event as your mother's arrival, everything else can only be put aside. Speaking of this, he held the girl's soft hand and smiled slightly. Besides, we still have many weekends in the future. In the future, there will be plenty of opportunities to come here again and make up for this date. To be honest, I feel more sorry for you. You just came here and you have to rush back. If I had known, I would have endured and pushed this matter to next week. There will be many weekends in the future. Yenjika rolled her eyes, revealing her dimples. She said lightly, "Why are you blaming yourself? She's my mother, not yours." While they were talking, the online car arrived on time and sent them to the old campus of Songqing University. Lu Qing and Yenjika discussed and decided to take separate cars to avoid bumping into each other because they were worried that their mother-in-law would be waiting at the school bus station in the new campus. Yenjika found a seat by the window, holding her backpack and looking at her boyfriend waving outside. She unconsciously showed a smile on her face and slightly pursed her lips. She looked calm. When the school bus started to move, she took out her mobile phone and typed quickly. She sent a striving to be strong emoji and said, "Everything will be fine after this afternoon." Lu Qing quickly replied with a snicker emoji. At that time, we can loudly sing, "The sky in the liberated area is bright and sunny." Yenjika couldn't help but laugh, like a flower in full bloom. The boy next to her almost couldn't move his eyes away. But she didn't pay attention to this at all. Her eyes were only focused on the phone screen. She sent a stunned emoji and said, "Wow, are you talking bad about my mother?" After replying to this message, she found that Li Liantong, Zhong Yenru and Shi Xiangyang had all sent her messages. Although the language was different, the content was basically the same. For example, "Come back quickly, I can't handle it alone. The Empress Dowager is full of aura. I'm trembling in fear. I dare not. I dare not talk bad about my mother-in-law." Lu Qing replied to Yenjika's message with a shocked emoji. "Bah, who's your mother-in-law?" Yenjika sent a curse emoji. Lu Qing stood at the waiting area with a smile on his face. He held his mobile phone like an internet addict and kept typing on the screen keyboard. After a while, he felt something in his heart. With his sharp senses, he felt some kind of gaze. He turned his head abruptly and looked in the direction of the strange gaze. He saw a few girls looking at him, whispering to each other and laughing in a low voice. One of them seemed to be pointing the camera of her mobile phone at him. What's going on? Lu Qing started to have second thoughts. When they noticed that he was looking at them, the girls immediately stopped talking and stood up straight, acting like they were just passers-by. When Lu Qing turned his head and looked at the school bus that had arrived at the departure point, he heard the uncontrollable laughter from the other side. "What's wrong with my face? What's wrong with my dress?" He was puzzled. While boarding the school bus and finding a good seat, he used his mobile phone screen as a mirror to look at his face. However, he found nothing. When the school bus was full and was about to start, Lu Qing suddenly thought of a possibility. He opened the browser and logged into the school forum. In the gossip section, he found a new post. "I seem to have met Lu Qing from the martial arts club." He clicked in and immediately saw himself standing at the waiting area, chatting with a silly smile on his mobile phone. Phew. Lu Qing exhaled and felt a little complacent. "I'm considered to be quite a celebrity in school." Because of Li Liantong's information, Yenjika was not surprised to see her mother waiting for her at the ticket office when she got off the school bus. Her mother wore her hair in a bun and light makeup. She wore a woman's white blouse, a black suit and a pair of 5-centimeter high heels, which highlighted her capable and mature business style. Her eyes were similar to Yenjika's, but her features were not as delicate as her daughter's. Her eyebrows were too sharp, and her nose was not high enough. She looked more heroic and imposing. "Mom, why are you wearing this?" "I was thinking of dressing up like a sister and going around the campus." Yenjika smiled and walked up to her. She held her mother's hand and said coquettishly. Then she nodded to the tall woman next to her who was also dressed in a suit. "Hello, Aunt Lu. I feel that you are getting stronger and stronger." Aunt Lu was her mother's assistant and bodyguard. She was the daughter of her grandfather's eldest disciple and had a cultivation of professional 7th pin of the dance stage. "Ku is getting better at talking." Lu Xiaolin replied with a smile. Ji Mingyu patted her daughter's hand affectionately and said, "I just finished a business deal and came here from Qinyang. How can I have time to change? Besides, I'm already so old. How can I dress up like a sister?" While talking, she looked at the students who were getting off the school bus. Of course not, you look like you are in your early 30s with jeans, white sneakers and a loose sweater. Yenjika said with a smile. She held her mother's hand and walked away. Then she snorted and said, Mom, are you worried about me? So you came here to patrol? She called yesterday to ask about her boyfriend and came here today. If she pretended not to think about it, she would feel guilty. Ji Mingyu let her daughter take her to the dormitory and laughed. I'm worried about myself. Yenjika looked at her mother blankly. What did she mean? You've been like me since you were a child. Ji Mingyu said with a smile, and I lied to your grandparents many times for your father. So I thought that if Maika really likes a boy, she would be willing to lie to us for him. So I thought I might as well come and have a look. If there is such a boy, I should at least know what kind of person he is, right? Yenjika felt guilty. Was it true that no one knew her daughter better than her mother? For a moment she even wanted to tell the truth. But in the end she decided to be cautious. She planned to take Qing to meet her parents when she was confident. I thought you came because you missed me, she said coquettishly and changed the topic. Ji Mingyu turned to look at her daughter and said with a smile, Ku, you look much better than you did during the spring festival. Of course. I train every day. My body is in good shape. Yenjika deliberately clenched her fists and bent her elbows to show her muscles. And I just participated in a challenge tournament last week. I did very well and defeated an opponent of amateur first pin. I didn't tell you before because I wanted to wait for the video to come out so you could see it immediately. After the edited video, there would be no flirting with each other. Ji Mingyu was a little surprised. Then you're going to participate in the next amateur ranking event. Which pin are you going to register for? Second pin. Yenjika answered proudly. Ji Mingyu nodded slightly and suggested, the special training of the martial arts club is very helpful for you. Since your cousin is here, why don't I treat all the members to a meal? We can also meet the boy who pretended to be your boyfriend the other day. Yenjika was so scared that her heart almost skipped a beat. She hurriedly said, why do you want to meet him? It's so embarrassing. Empress Dowager is so troublesome. Chapter 175. Ji Mingyu smiled and said, what's there to be embarrassed about? It's not like I'm treating him alone. Since my daughter has troubled him, I'll go and thank him when I treat all the members of the special training group. Is that okay? No problem, no problem. This is a big problem. Yenjika felt a headache coming. She racked her brains and said, but we all have activities on the weekend. How can we get together so easily? Besides, Mom, aren't you going to treat my roommates to dinner? Yes, I'll treat your roommates tonight, and invite the members of the martial arts club tomorrow at noon. You'll have just finished your special training so you can find them. Ji Mingyu looked at her daughter with a smile. Her plan was flawless. As for the accommodation, Songqing was so big that they could find a good hotel. Yenjika was speechless for a moment. She felt that she was still too inexperienced in front of her mother. She restrained her panic, depression, and self-abandonment and looked up. Well, I'll mention it to them during the special training tomorrow. If she objected again, her mother would see through her. It was just a meal. What was there to be afraid of? She told Qing, senior sister Lin, and the others to make Qing act as if nothing had happened. Everything should be fine. After she answered, Lu Xiaolin, who had been silent, suddenly said, Junior uncle, you have plans tomorrow. Qin Yang has to attend the signing ceremony. She was the daughter of Ji Mingyu's big brother, so she called Ji Mingyu junior uncle. However, they were only 5 years apart in age and she was married to a family friend of the Yen family, so Yenjika had to call her aunt. Look at my bad memory. Ji Mingyu patted her forehead and said regretfully, Ku, I can't treat the members of the martial arts club to dinner. No need to feel sorry. Yenjika exhaled silently. Then she suddenly realized that if she kept finding excuses to stop this, it would most likely become a reality. She would never mention the signing ceremony. Mom, you're so cunning. You can wait until next time. Anyway, I haven't told them yet. Mom, since you're so concerned about my teammates in the martial arts club, do you know anything about our coach? She asked, changing the topic. Qing had always been curious about this. Ji Mingyu chuckled and said, I asked your grandfather and he only replied with one sentence, an old guy. This old guy seems to be a master of physical invulnerability of the same generation as Grandpa. But Coach sure doesn't seem to have a good relationship with Grandpa. Yenjika thought to herself. She put the previous trick behind her and adjusted her mood. Then she took her mother and Aunt Lu to walk around the campus and chat. Back in the dormitory, Lu Qing put his phone aside and waited for Yanjika's good news. He didn't join Kai Zongming and Zhao Chang in their game. Instead, he took out his textbook, calmed down, and started to review what he had learned before. The amount of knowledge in each class in university was 10 times more than in high school. It was common for students to finish dozens of pages of teaching materials in a single class. Just by listening in class and doing homework after class, students who were not gifted could only grasp the basic knowledge and pass the exam. Therefore, this placed a higher requirement on students' ability to study independently. If they didn't know how to read by themselves, consolidate their knowledge, spread their knowledge, and search for relevant materials by themselves, their grades would get worse and worse. Lu Qing was busy with martial arts training. Classes filled up his afternoon and evening, and he only had time to study with Yanjika on weekends. He didn't have a good grasp of most of the knowledge. Now that he opened the book, he learned something new from every page. While he was engrossed in studying, the sky turned dark. Suddenly his phone buzzed and vibrated strongly. A message from Ko? Lu Qing was delighted and put down the pen in his hand. But he didn't dare to hold too much hope, because similar situations had happened before. They were all spam messages or replies from Jiang Fei and Qin Qili. He picked up his phone and saw the latest message on the screen without unlocking it. Yanjika sent a firecracker emoji. I've unlocked it. Mother-in-law's inspection is over? Lu Qing felt relieved and beamed. He unlocked the screen and replied quickly, Then can I invite my little fairy to take a walk tonight? Yanjika stood at the bus stop and watched her mother and Auntie Lu leave the east gate on the bus. She had the urge to burst into tears. How tiring. But Mom left a little too easily, didn't she? She trusted me after probing a little? Or was it because she didn't have many doubts in the first place and it was just along the way? In doubt and exhaustion, she took out her phone. When she saw the reply, a faint smile bloomed on her face again. She was relaxed and happy again. Okay, but let's wait for another hour. I'm afraid that Queen Mother will come back and catch us by surprise. My little fairy was scared by my mother-in-law. Seeing this message, Lu Qing felt sorry for her and found it funny. Another hour is just right. I haven't had my dinner yet. The moon hung high above the willows. When it was dark, Lu Qing waited for Yanjika to come out of the dormitory. He immediately went up to her and held her hand, their fingers intertwined tightly. Let's go for a walk by the lake? He suggested with a smile. There were too many people around. Yanjika rolled her eyes at him. Her eyes were shining like stars. She pursed her lips and said, You can't be naughty. In the middle of the night. That's how I lost my first kiss. Lu Qing answered with a straight face, I promise I won't be naughty. How can being intimate with my girlfriend be naughty? Hand in hand they strolled to the lake. Lu Qing said with heartache, Were you tired in the afternoon? Was it very tiring to deal with Empress Dowager? Yes. Yanjika nodded exaggeratedly. I'm not bragging. If it were you, you would be exposed in 3 minutes. Haha, are you that good? Lu Qing didn't believe her. Yanjika put her right hand in her pocket and counted with her fingers. Empress Dowager is experienced and experienced. Empress Dowager has been in the business world for many years. She has sharp eyes and a strong aura. Empress Dowager is very smart and has one trick after another. She gave birth to me and raised me, so she knows me very well. It's not easy for you. Lu Qing felt that the girl's action was very cute, but at the same time he pitied her hard work. Yanjika turned her face and looked at Lu Qing with grievance. That's right. How are you going to comfort me? Lu Qing stared at her delicate pink lips and said, A kiss? Humph, you're not comforting me. You're taking advantage of me. Yanjika said coquettishly. She turned her head and looked to the side. Then she said, Sheng, answer me honestly. Did you do a lot of preparation for the aquarium visit this afternoon? At this time they were walking further and further away. There was no one around except for the occasional street light. Not too much. Lu Qing answered modestly. Yanjika turned around and looked at him with bright eyes. Can I have a look? Looking at the girl stretching out her hand, Lu Qing couldn't resist. He handed his phone to her, unlocked the screen and opened the photo library. I just downloaded some pictures and made some notes. How about I set your fingerprint? You can turn on my phone at any time. You don't have to go through so much trouble. Aren't you afraid that I'll find out your secret? Yanjika looked at him with a faint smile. I have no secrets in front of you. Lu Qing said corny words. Yanjika smiled and stopped. She looked down at the pictures Lu Qing had downloaded. 111. She flipped through them for a long time. So many? She whispered to herself and looked up at Lu Cheng. There seemed to be ripples in her eyes. The girl quickly lowered her head again and opened the notebook. It was full of marine life-related notes. They were divided into categories and marked with key points. It was exactly the same as her review notes before the college entrance examination. Yan Zhika didn't speak for a long time and kept looking at the phone. Lu Cheng said nervously, I found them on the internet. It didn't take me much time. The girl's black hair hung down and covered half of her cheeks, but he could still see her sweet dimples. I'm very happy. What? Lu Cheng was stunned and didn't hear clearly. Yan Zhika looked up and snorted. Forget it if you didn't hear it. Under the street light, her eyes were a little red. Lu Cheng was not a fool. He understood her tone and guessed that the girl was moved. He smiled and said, I heard you say you wanted to kiss. Bah. Shameless. Pervert. Yan Zhika spat and looked to the side with a red face. But when Lu Cheng grabbed her hand and pulled her toward him, she immediately fell down softly as if she had lost her bones. Lu Cheng had no experience, but how to chase after beauty was ingrained in his instinct. At this moment he completely forgot about the surrounding environment and the loss and tension during the day. After a long time she pushed him away and struggled to get out. Her lips were red and watery with a hint of silver. Then she buried her red face in his shoulder and gasped for air as she said, Pervert, pervert, big pervert. Her right hand gently and continuously beat Lu Cheng's back. Lu Cheng seemed to have forgotten to breathe just now. Now he was gasping for air and was in a good mood. He said in high spirits, If that's the case, all husbands and boyfriends are big perverts. I'm proud of my perverted girlfriend. I don't care. You're the number one big pervert. Yan Zhika answered shyly. Suddenly, she asked in confusion, What's bothering me? Well. His mind was working quickly to find an excuse. Yan Zhika felt her eyes were burning. She turned her head abruptly and said shyly and angrily, Rogue. I won't play kisses with you anymore. Lu Cheng smiled awkwardly and held the girl in his arms again. He explained seriously, If I didn't have such a reaction you would be worried. You're a big pervert anyway. Yan Zhika did not struggle and answered indignantly. Lu Cheng recovered and was no longer embarrassed. He held the girl in his arms, listened to her coquettishly, smelled her fragrance and savored the sweetness in her mouth. He wished he could shout loudly to vent his joy. With the arrival of the Empress Dowager, the relationship between the two seemed to be closer in the following week. Lu Cheng was able to successfully lure Yan Zhika into a deep kiss from time to time. He was so happy every day. His cultivation became even more assiduous, and his state of mind was no longer impatient. He calmed down again. After comprehending the frost concept of the Jindan twice, he was only one step away from grasping the essence and charm of the visualization diagram. This was slower than he expected, but it was still within the normal range. In the blink of an eye it was Saturday morning. After finishing his morning training, he accompanied Yan Zhika and others to the Songqing Martial Arts Club. This was the first annual amateur ranking event. The Songqing Martial Arts Club was very large. It was divided into several halls and surrounded by a circle of shops for the martial artists and spectators. What should I do? I'm a little nervous. Yan Zhika held Lu Cheng's hand and said pitifully. Lu Cheng comforted her. Don't be afraid. The competitors of second pin are all fighters of amateur third pin. You have a big advantage. There was a cafe dozens of meters away from them. From its floor-to-ceiling window, they could see the entrance of the martial arts club. Beside the floor-to-ceiling window, Ji Mingyu in a black business suit was quietly watching the couple holding hands with a cup of coffee. Chapter 176. At the entrance of the Songqing Martial Arts Stadium, Lu Cheng and the others bumped fists and parted ways. Guoqing had only practiced mountain moving fist for a month, so she didn't dare to register for the amateur third pin competition with Lin Hua. Instead, she, Li Xiaowen, Jiang Fuxing and Wu Meng went to the number 3 hall, where the ranking event of amateur fourth pin was held. Sun Jian and Li Mao set their sights on the amateur second pin, so they went to the number 2 hall with Yan Zhika, who was a little riskier to register for the amateur second pin. Kai Zongming didn't come this time. Lu Cheng picked up the foundation he had left behind and didn't have any hope of improving his rank. Hall number 2 was about the same size as Songqing University's martial arts stadium. Most of the people coming and going were fighters and friends. There were no real audience. Even so, according to Lu Cheng's observation, there were at least thousands of people here. After waiting in line to get her group and match arrangement, Yenjika wrinkled her delicate nose and showed her sweet dimples. Not bad. Only 5 fighters. The number of fighters of amateur second pin had been announced on the official website. There were 439 fighters in Songqing. Usually, most fighters of amateur ranking event were of 9th pin and 8th pin. Most of the fighters in the hundreds of martial arts clubs and gyms in and around Songqing were aiming for these 2 ranks. For them, most of them had their own jobs or were still in middle school or high school, so the time they had to train was quite limited. If they didn't have any talent, they would spend their entire lives strengthening their bodies, maintaining their figure, and being proficient in martial arts. If they were able to obtain the 2 grades of entry, they would be able to brag about it to their friends and family. At critical moments, they could even use it to scare thieves and hooligans like heroes protecting beauties. Because of this, the ranking event for these 2 ranks was not held in the Songqing Martial Arts Stadium. Instead, it was held in different areas of the county and some schools, so that the quota would be distributed to different people. Although there were a lot of fighters of amateur 8th pin, not many of them had the confidence to sign up for amateur 7th pin. The number of fighters started to drop sharply. From rank 7 to rank 4, it was very difficult for a martial artist who did not persevere in training or have some talent to stand out. The gym could no longer help students reach this level. Only the most elite students in every martial arts dojo had the ambition to make a breakthrough. Kai Zongming belonged to this category. He had some talent, but he did not put in enough effort. These 4 levels of competition were held in Hall 3 and Hall 4 respectively. Logically speaking, there should be fewer applicants for rank 4 and above. After all, only martial artists with a little talent who insisted on daily training were qualified to set their sights on this. In most of the martial arts dojos, they could already be listed as disciples. However, this was not the case in reality, because the martial artists who were initially distributed to various martial arts schools and were accepted as disciples by various sects and forces would participate from this stage onwards. Among them, the most outstanding few aimed to enter the Dan stage and reach professional 8th pin. Those who could be considered outstanding would be professional 9th pin at the beginning. Those who were above average would aim for amateur 1st pin. Those who were below average would aim for amateur 2nd pin. Those who were not outstanding would at least aim for amateur 3rd pin. Every year, many students from several martial arts schools in Songqing participated in this event, and the number of applicants for the amateur 3rd pin had skyrocketed. However, they would not affect the local martial arts environment too much. Usually, after graduation, they would go where they wanted to go. Some would join the army, some would join the police force, some would become employees of the security companies affiliated with the major forces, and so on. The number of applicants for 439 amateur 2nd pin was slightly higher than in previous years, but it was still within a reasonable range. However, compared to the number of amateur 3rd pin fighters, it was still a small part. After all, after reaching amateur 3rd pin, some would age and their physical condition would begin to deteriorate. Some would be satisfied and stop pursuing further progress. Some would have their training time greatly reduced due to job changes or university graduation. It was not easy for them to maintain their original level. Some might feel that they were still lacking and wait for the future. The quota for the ranking event this time was 40 people of amateur 2nd pin, which was less than 10%. They were divided into 80 groups, with 5 or 6 people in each group. They would compete in a single cycle. If there were 2 people with the same record, they would compete against each other. If there were 3 people with the same record, they would start all over again. After the competition, the 80 fighters would draw lots to fight. The loser would be eliminated and the winner would be determined as amateur 2nd pin. In other words, a fighter would have to fight at least 5 matches to be determined. Moreover, all the matches would be held on weekends, which was also a great test of physical strength. Lu Qing took the paper from his girlfriend's hand and read it carefully. He smiled and said, "Qin Jun from Songyue Martial Arts School. This was Yenjika's opponent this morning. After that, she would fight at 3 o'clock p.m., 7 o'clock p.m., and the next morning. If there was one, she could draw lots in the afternoon for the knockout match to determine her level. The knockout match didn't have to start after all the groups had fought. It could start as long as there were more than 20 groups. Qin Jun was an amateur 3rd pin fighter. He hadn't participated in any preliminaries and had only participated in some amateur challenge tournaments. It was difficult to find his fighting videos on the internet. However, after knowing that he was a disciple of Songyue Martial Arts School, Lu Qing could naturally find videos of his martial arts skills to give Yenjika a direct impression. Yenjika smiled while watching her boyfriend busy himself. She was also searching for videos. They leaned against the edge of the stands and whispered to each other, seizing the time to analyze the characteristics of those martial arts skills. Sun Jian and Li Mao, who could only study by themselves, were very envious. At 9:00 p.m., the group of friends and relatives retreated to the upper stands so that the organizer could better maintain order. The situation of the venue was similar to that of the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament. There were 4 standard arenas around the center. Lu Qing knew that his girlfriend's match would start at 10:00 p.m. Seeing her sitting down at the edge of the arena, he sent a smiley emoji and said, "Don't think too much. Let's continue to discuss your opponent's martial arts skills. But first I'll buy you some fruits and energy drinks." He was quite confident in Yenjika's martial arts level since he had been her training partner every day. "Good, very careful. I'll give you a like," Yenjika said with a smirk. After exiting hall number 2, Lu Qing chatted with the girl while he found a nearby fruit shop. He bought a lot of things and finally found a small supermarket to stock up on a few energy drinks. Even though it was a given that he valued his girlfriend over his friends, he couldn't be too obvious about it. He still had to prepare some for Senior Sun Jian and the others. Carrying these things, Lu Qing walked back to the second hall with light steps. He chose a position where he could see Yenjika from the best angle. He saw that many men around her were secretly looking at her, but she was focused on replying to his messages without any distractions. Soon it was 10:00 p.m. Yenjika stood up and walked to the corresponding arena. Her beauty, figure, and temperament attracted enough attention. "Hee, such a good girl is mine." Lu Qing looked at this scene with a little complacency and happiness. At this moment he saw 2 figures walking towards him from the corner of his eyes. One stopped not far away, and the other was still approaching. There was no hidden meaning in his words. Subconsciously he sized him up. With this look, his heart suddenly thumped and he had a bad premonition. It was a woman who looked less than 40 years old. Her hair was tied up in a bun. She had an elegant temperament and delicate facial features. She looked like she came from Jiangnan, but her eyebrows were relatively sharp, which made her look more heroic. But this was not the point. The point was that Lu Qing vaguely felt that she looked a little like his girlfriend. Could it be so coincidental? Didn't she already patrol? Didn't she go back long ago? While Lu Qing was guessing in panic, a mature woman in a black business suit stopped in front of him and smiled. "Are you Lu Qing?" Yes." Lu Qing told himself to calm down. Ji Mingyu smiled faintly and straightforwardly introduced herself. "Hello, I'm Ka's mother." There was a loud boom. Lu Qing felt that his brain was going to explode. "She is really the Empress Dowager. She really came back to kill me. And she came back after Ku and I thought everything was over." Calm down, calm down. She didn't catch Ku and me." Lu Qing took a deep breath and glanced at Yenjika, who was in the middle of the conversation. He hurriedly stood up and said with a smile, "Hello, Auntie. Judging from your reaction, you are indeed my Ku's boyfriend." Ji Mingyu chuckled. Lu Qing was dumbfounded. He finally understood why Yenjika said he would be exposed in 3 minutes in front of her mother. "Am I acting too nervous? In fact, no matter how calm you look, I can be sure that I saw you and Ku come in hand," Ji Mingyu said with a smile. She sat next to Lu Qing and looked at her daughter in the arena. Lu Qing stayed there, not knowing whether to stand or sit. He was under a lot of pressure. She was so domineering. Is she here to ask me to break up with Ku? Should I learn from the TV series and say things like, "We are true love, money will only insult me, don't bully the poor, and life is full of ups and downs"? "Sit down." Ji Mingyu sighed slightly. "To be honest, when I found that Ku kept lying to me for you, I wanted to tell you to get out of here as far as possible. But when I thought about my past, I was worse than you. So I calmed down and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Only when I become a mother can I understand my mother's feelings." While talking, she kept looking at Yenjika in the arena and didn't turn her head. Lu Qing took a deep breath and sat down with the mentality that he would be stabbed no matter what. He said seriously, "Auntie, you must have something to say to me today, right?" Ji Mingyu finally looked at him and said self-mockingly, Don't worry, I'm not here to force you two apart. Ku's temper has been like mine since she was a child. She looks delicate and weak, but she's very stubborn. Forcing her will only push her towards you. I was able to abandon everything and run to Xioshan. She can do the same. I won't give you a lot of money and ask you to quit, although your family is not rich." "Lu Qing, I'm sorry, but I hope you can understand a mother's protective mentality after knowing that her daughter has a boyfriend. I have to investigate your situation. Empress Dowager is so scary." Lu Qing suddenly understood Yanjika's feelings. He said sincerely, "I understand your feelings." Ji Mingyu nodded slightly, "Very good. Although your family is not rich, you have great potential. Your martial arts strength has improved by leaps and bounds recently. Coupled with your current age, you will definitely feel that you have a bright future ahead of you. Money, paper, you can earn more in the future. So, I don't think money can be used against you. I won't set a goal for you to marry Ko. In the future, Ko will only become more and more outstanding. If you can't catch up with her, you'll feel inferior and quit on your own accord." Lu Qing gradually calmed down as he listened. Doubts arose in his mind. "Auntie, what do you want to tell me? And Auntie, didn't you just find out that we are dating today? How did you find out so clearly?" Chapter 177. Ji Mingyu turned back and looked at Yanjika, who was about to start the competition. Her dimples appeared on her cheeks. Ku was in poor health when she was young, so she was spoiled. Unlike me, I was used to being wild with my senior brothers and sisters and learned to lie. When she mentioned that you and her cousin had defeated an 8th Pin Dan stage fighter by taking turns, she didn't say much, but she couldn't hide the pride and happiness in her voice. It was even more obvious than when she got the highest score in the exam. My heart skipped a beat. Oh no, my daughter really has a boyfriend. So that's how I got exposed at the beginning. Lu Qing was suddenly enlightened and didn't feel depressed. Instead, he felt a kind of sweetness that made him want to laugh out loud. Knowing Yanjika's attitude and tone when she talked about him from bystanders made him more certain about her feelings for him, making him feel satisfied and happy. With my beloved girl on my side, no matter how terrible my mother-in-law and father-in-law are, I won't be afraid. It's a pity that I didn't see his face and hear her tone. With these key points, if I still can't find out your information, then I've lived half of my life in vain. Ji Mingyu said calmly, "I'm here today to give you 2 wishes as Ku's mother, not demands." "Auntie, please go ahead." Lu Qing saw that Empress Dowager didn't want to force him and Yanjika apart, so he regained his usual calmness, but he was still in awe. The fact that Empress Dowager gave birth to Ku, raised her, and loved her was worthy of his respect. Ji Mingyu turned her head and looked at Lu Qing with a smile. "First, before you're sure that you can shoulder Ku's life, don't go too far. Can you do that? Don't go too far." Lu Qing almost didn't understand the meaning of these 4 words. After thinking for a while, he realized, "Mother-in-law, you're too subtle. I'm not an irresponsible person. I'll work hard to improve myself for Ku and I won't hurt her." Lu Qing replied to his mother-in-law in a more tactful way. Ji Mingyu nodded. "Secondly, I know that when 2 people are together, no matter how much they love each other in the past, they still need to make certain sacrifices in order to complete the run-in. But I hope that you won't let Ku sacrifice her own dreams and her own brilliance for you. Believe me, true love can withstand the test of time and distance." A test of time and distance? Ku's dream and brilliance? Lu Qing was a little confused and didn't quite understand what she meant, but he still said sincerely, "Auntie, if it's really Ku's dream, I can only support it with both hands." "All right, remember what you said today." Ji Mingyu stood up slowly and commented, "It won't be a big problem for Ku to win this game. Okay, I'll leave first. Don't tell Ku that I came." "Yes." Suppressed by Empress Dowager's aura, Lu Qing couldn't find any words to say. The girl was overjoyed. She turned her head to look at the stands looking for Lu Qing. When she found that familiar guy and made eye contact with him, for some reason she felt relieved. She smiled widely and waved her fist. Looking at Yanjika's bright smile, Lu Qing was both happy and absent-minded. It was like heaven and hell when he faced Empress Dowager's aura just now. Empress Dowager acquiesced to my relationship with Ku? Just a wish, not a request? In an instant he came back to his senses. He felt so excited that his whole body was trembling. Ecstasy surged from the bottom of his heart. Although he didn't know why his mother-in-law had acquiesced, at least he had achieved the initial success and had a good start. "I am Ku's above-board boyfriend." He waved his fist in excitement. Yanjika tilted her head and was puzzled. Why is Qing happier and more excited than me? This is only the first round of the ranking event. Whatever, as long as he is happy. And he seems to be happy from the bottom of his heart. He can't help it. Yanjika left the ring, checked with the competition supervisor and took back her phone. She walked along the aisle and walked briskly to Lu Qing. Lu Qing had already walked up to her and wanted to give her a big hug. Yan Zhika looked around shyly at her boyfriend's open arms. After confirming that no one was watching, she bit her lip and walked quickly to him, letting him hug her. "Why are you so happy?" Yan Zhika held back her laughter and asked in a low voice. Lu Qing had a lot to say and many things he longed to know. But considering that his girlfriend had matches in the afternoon and evening, he forced himself to hold back. "I'm just happy that you have a good start." Yan Zhika laughed and broke free. She flipped her loose hair and looked around guiltily. Then she looked at her boyfriend suspiciously and said, "Why do I feel that your smile is not normal? Is this a girl's intuition?" Lu Qing laughed and said, "What's not normal? Let's sit over there and wait for Sun Jian and Senior Li Mao." Okay. Yan Zhika was in a good mood and didn't think too much about her boyfriend's behavior just now. She sat down, took the unscrewed energy drink and sipped to replenish her water. With her physical strength, even if she only played half of 24 blizzard strikes, it was inevitable that she would be sweating. Because of the perfect timing, they didn't have to wait for long before Sun Jian and Li Mao finished their matches and won their first match. After that, Sun Jian went to wait for Lin Hua. Lu Qing and the others met up with Guqing, who had already finished her match. They walked to an express hotel 15 minutes away. Songqing University's new campus was too far away from Songqing Martial Arts Club, so it was troublesome to go back and forth. According to the usual practice, they booked rooms in advance for each match to rest and recover as much as possible. Of course, if they had enough time after the third match in the evening, they would still take the last school bus back to the dormitory. Lu Qing ran back and forth and busied himself for a while. Finally, Sun Jian, Li Mao, Jiang Fuxing, Wu Meng, Lin Hua, Li Xiaowen, Yan Zhika, Guqing and himself checked in. However, after taking the room card, he lured Yan Zhika to his room with the excuse that he wanted to discuss the match in the afternoon with her. "You're not going to do anything bad, are you?" Standing at the door, Yan Zhika suddenly felt a little timid and bit her lower lip. This was probably the first time she had opened a room with a boy. Lu Qing laughed and said, "Am I such a pervert in your eyes?" "Yes." Yan Zhika answered crisply without hesitation. After that, her dimples appeared and she was very charming. Lu Qing was speechless for a moment and had to tell the truth. "You have a match in the afternoon. How dare I do anything bad? I just learned a new skill and thought it would come in handy today." "What new skill?" Yan Zhika rolled her eyes and was full of curiosity. Lu Qing swiped the card and opened the door. He said with a smile, "It's a massage skill to help you quickly relieve your fatigue." "Really?" Yan Zhika said with a face of, "I don't believe it." "You'll know after you try it. It can also be used with the ointment to remove your bruises and swelling. You won't have any hidden injuries left after continuous matches." Lu Qing said seriously while inserting the room card into the socket. Looking at her boyfriend's serious face, Yan Zhika nodded slightly and smiled. "Then I'll believe you this time." While talking, she walked in and looked around curiously. It seemed that she had never stayed in such an express hotel before. Clang. Lu Qing closed the door and blocked out the noise outside. "You sit by the bed and I'll massage you," he suggested with a smile. Yan Zhika rolled her eyes at him. "You're sweating all over. You don't think it smells, but I think it's dirty. Take a shower first and then try your new skill." Besides, she had to apply the ointment after the shower. After saying that, she took the bag from Lu Qing without any vigilance, just like in the locker room during the match. But when she bent down to take off her martial arts shoes, she suddenly froze. She seemed to have thought of something and her pretty face turned red. Then she rushed into the bathroom with her slippers and other things. She closed the door firmly and locked it with a click. "What's wrong?" Lu Qing was a little confused and sat by the bed casually. After a few minutes, the sound of the shower came from the bathroom. It was soft and dense, echoing in his ears. Lu Qing didn't feel anything at first, but as he listened he suddenly found that the surroundings were unusually quiet, completely different from the locker room in the past. "In this room there's only me and Ko." This realization suddenly flashed in his mind, giving birth to an inexplicable feeling in his heart. He felt that the sound of the water seemed to be knocking on his heart and evoking something called ambiguity. A man and a woman alone in a room. He took a deep breath and told himself that Yan Zhika had a match in the afternoon, and it was a very important ranking event. He couldn't disturb her state of mind. The water condensed into ice and the ice melted again. Lu Qing felt like he was sitting on pins and needles, sometimes restless and sometimes calm. When the sound of the shower stopped abruptly, he exhaled silently, as if he had just finished a challenge tournament. After a short while, Yanjika opened the door and came out. She was still wearing the white martial arts suit of Songqing University with black edges. Her hair was loosely tied up with a cowhide band, and her neck was white and slender. Her facial features were more and more beautiful at this time. Her exposed skin was moist and tender, as if it could be broken by a blow. Lu Qing looked like he was struck by lightning. He stared at her blankly, and gradually his mouth and tongue became dry. "What are you looking at?" Yanjika's face turned red as soon as she met Lu Qing's eyes. She hummed shyly and then she said with a little fear, I'd better go to Qing first. I always feel that Qing will turn into a pervert if he howls. Why did I follow him in so stupidly? Lu Qing took a deep breath and smelled the fragrance of the girl after the shower. He quickly condensed the water into ice and said earnestly, "Trust me, I'm really just giving you a massage to relax. How can I bear to disturb the ranking event that you've been looking forward to for so long?" Looking at his sincere expression, Yanjika bit her lower lip and said, "Okay, I believe you." Speaking of this, she raised her eyes, which seemed to be a little misty, and looked at Lu Qing timidly. "Don't let me down." "Of course not. Look at my righteous face." Lu Qing deliberately made a joke to ease the girl's uneasiness. "Silly face." Yanjika cursed with a smile. She put down the martial arts shoes and other things in her hands and sat beside Lu Qing. She looked at her feet shyly and uneasily and said, "Let's start." "Okay." Lu Qing first took out the ointment and put it aside, waiting to be used. Then he let the girl turn her body sideways, and then he knelt on one leg on the edge of the bed and stretched out his hands to press her shoulders. After a few times, Yanjika was a little happy and a little surprised. "Qing, when did you learn to do this? You're quite good at it." Lu Qing laughed and said, "Didn't you say before that when I mastered the skill of massage, you would let me help you with physical therapy to relax? I've always kept it in mind, watched a lot of videos and looked up a lot of information. With my insight and understanding of the body, how could they hide from me with their little tricks? I learned it quickly. You still remember it?" Yanjika pursed her lips and looked in front of her, her deep dimples showing sweetness. "But you're usually so busy, how can you have time to look at this? You also collected so much information about marine life. I still have time to squeeze." Lu Qing's hands moved down and pressed the girl's back muscles. He answered with a smile, "There are some non-professional courses that I don't need to listen to, but I don't dare to skip them, so I can do these things. But it's a little wasteful. In the university there were many similar courses." Lu Qing always suspected that these courses were specially prepared for the students to relax. Compared to them, the elective courses that were chosen based on one's interest made him more eager to listen carefully. No wonder a senior brother once said that he would always choose to skip elective courses and skip compulsory courses. Yanjika narrowed her eyes and said, "I use these courses to review the professional courses and read the extended literature." "Good student." Lu Qing praised. Like a child expecting praise, he asked, "Is it comfortable? Do you want it more or less?" "It's okay." Yanjika answered reservedly, "A little more." Feeling her satisfaction, the smile on Lu Qing's face grew wider. Together with the application of the ointment, he began to massage the muscles of the girl's arms and legs to relax the remaining tension after the explosion. After the familiarization just now, Yanjika was more and more satisfied with his skills. Gradually, she closed her eyes and concentrated on enjoying. After a while of physical therapy, Lu Qing was too embarrassed to ask his girlfriend to lie down, so he squatted down and massaged her ankle. He glanced around and saw a bruise on the back of her foot where her slippers were exposed. He applied the ointment and rubbed it away with a moderate amount of strength. Because part of the bruise was blocked by the slippers, he raised his head and wanted to ask Yanjika to lift her foot and take off her shoes. But when he saw the girl closed her eyes and enjoyed it, he felt that there was no need to ask. Since she asked him to massage it, she would definitely not object. Lu Qing held her delicate ankle and lifted it gently. Yanjika instinctively struggled for a while and then relaxed. Her eyelashes trembled slightly and her cheeks blushed unconsciously. After taking off her shoes, Lu Qing suddenly stopped breathing. He saw the girl's small feet, delicate toes, jade-like skin and fleshy instep, which didn't match her elegant appearance, but was also quite cute. Lu Qing didn't know when it started, but he felt that his breath became heavier and his kneading action became more like caressing. He felt that this couldn't work, so he quickly raised his head and looked away, only to see Yanjika's bulging chest. Lu Qing's blood seemed to be rushing. His mouth was dry and his tongue was restless. He pressed the acupoint on her foot harder, which made her involuntarily let out a low moan. Lu Cheng's heart beat faster when he heard the moan. When he was about to do something, Yanjika opened her eyes and asked innocently and confusedly, "Cheng, what's wrong with you? Why did you press so hard?" Lu Cheng took a deep breath and remembered that today was the day of the ranking event. He hurriedly said, "I'm going to wash my face with cold water." Yanjika was at a loss at first, but then she saw Lu Cheng run to the bathroom with his back hunched. She suddenly realized what he was doing and blushed. "You big pervert." She lay down on her side, grabbed a pillow and buried her face in it. Her voice was shy and happy, but when she remembered Lu Cheng's appearance just now, she couldn't help but chuckle, feeling sweet and touched. "I wonder how it feels to wash my face with cold water. If it's not enough, will he take a cold shower?" She thought shyly and naughtily. Lu Cheng was splashing cold water on his face to sober up the burning heat. He felt that he had just experienced another battle between heaven and earth. What a wonderful and painful experience. When he calmed down and returned to the room, Yanjika was already tired. She wrapped herself in the quilt and said, "Cheng, I'm going to sleep for a while. Wake me up at 11:30 for dinner." "Okay, we'll talk about the competition in the afternoon after dinner." Lu Cheng walked to her side and said. Yanjika turned over and said coquettishly, "Rub my temples for me until I fall asleep." "Okay." Lu Cheng accepted the task happily and reached out to rub her temples. After a while, he heard Yanjika's steady breathing and saw that she was sleeping peacefully. His mood softened and he forgot about the wild thoughts just now. He just looked at his beloved girl for a long time. Lu Cheng took the time to find the information. Instead of waking Yanjika up, he went downstairs to buy some food and brought it back. He seduced her nose with the fragrance and made her slowly open her eyes. Yanjika's black hair covered both sides of her face. Her face was white and delicate, and her dark and lively eyes were still a little confused after waking up. Lu Cheng stared at her in a daze and felt that he would never forget this picture. Yanjika won the competition in the afternoon and evening because she was well prepared and strong enough. Lu Cheng, on the other hand, experienced the torture of ice and fire in the afternoon when he was massaging her in the afternoon. At 8 o'clock in the evening, the martial arts club returned to the old campus. Guoqing, Li Mao, and the others were quite excited because they also won all the matches. Sun Jian, however, was a little depressed because he met a strong opponent in the group and lost the previous match. Since then, the hope of qualifying was very slim. "It's just bad luck. We can try again in June." Everyone comforted him. After walking for a while, Yanjika slowed down and said pitifully in Lu Cheng's ear, "I used too much strength in the last match. My muscles are a little sore." Lu Cheng looked around and suggested with a smile, "How about I carry you on my back?" "It's too embarrassing." Yanjika refused immediately. "What are you afraid of? Let's walk slowly and take a detour. You can bury your face in my shoulder later. Then no one will recognize you and you won't feel embarrassed." Lu Cheng said half-jokingly. Yanjika burst out laughing, "You're making me sound like an ostrich." Under Lu Cheng's persuasion, she finally agreed. They walked slower and slower until they completely fell behind. "Come on up." Lu Cheng squatted down and said with a smile. Yanjika put her hands on his shoulders and let him hook her legs and carry her on his back. "So light." Lu Cheng chuckled. At this time the sky was dark and the night wind was cool. The faint fragrance of flowers floated around. It was quiet and peaceful. Yanjika didn't say anything. Her cheeks were rosy and her dimples were shallow. Lu Cheng saw that no one was around and took a deep breath. "Ku, your mother came to see me today during your match." "What?" Yanjika was confused and doubted that she had heard it wrong. Lu Cheng didn't turn around. He smiled and said, "She confirmed that we were dating but she didn't seem to object." Although his mother-in-law had asked him not to tell Ku, he was very clear about who would be his future family and who would be the most important one. "My mother? Did she come back?" Yanjika didn't realize until now. She was confused, shocked, and puzzled. Lu Cheng told her in detail what they had talked about and finally asked the question that he wanted to know the most. "Ku, what's your dream?" Chapter 178. After listening to Lu Cheng's story, Yanjika wondered if she was really proud and happy when she mentioned her boyfriend. At the same time, she wanted to exclaim that Tai Shuaran was so powerful that ordinary people like her couldn't compare with him. But the last question made her fall silent. Under the illumination of the street lamps, she rested her hands on his shoulders. Her eyes peered over his sideburns, looking at half of his face from a different angle than usual. She could feel the steady but anxious footsteps beneath her. She pursed her lips and said, "You're too young. My biggest dream is, of course, to make up for the shortcomings of my body and continue to walk on the path of martial arts. Even if I may not be able to go very far, I will be very, very happy with every step forward. However, with the current medical development, there is no hope for this. Moreover, it has been more than 10 years and I have accepted this reality. It does not affect my daily life. My mom is talking about another thing. I used to think that I had a talent for numbers and logic and could see through the rules of things at a glance. Don't laugh. I was so innocent back then. Now I have been led astray by you. Therefore, I often tell my mother that I can definitely inherit your company. It's a piece of cake. But I don't like to deal with all kinds of strangers, I don't like to fight and scheme, I don't like to run around everywhere. So I want to learn mathematics, economics, trade and finance. I want to be a strategist, hiding behind the scenes and strategizing. I applied to Songqing University because I wanted to keep an eye on my brother in case something happened to him. Also, our school and Yvonne University in the United States have a joint training program. When I am in my senior year, I can go there to study under the top scholars in the world after passing the assessment. It will take about 3 to 5 years. The night breeze was cool. The girl's voice drilled into Lu Cheng's ears and made him a little absent-minded. Is this the test of time and distance? Little Ming already has a hard time in a long-distance relationship, let alone in a foreign country. He took a breath and asked seriously and nervously, "Will you come back?" Yanjika burst into laughter and answered firmly, "Of course I will. My relatives and friends are here. The culture and history that are deeply ingrained in my bones are here. All my favorite food is here. The boy I like is here too." Towards the end of her sentence, her voice became softer and softer until it was as soft as a mosquito's buzzing, but she still insisted on saying it. Fortunately, she was on Orange's back and didn't have to face him. He wouldn't see her embarrassed expression. "The boy I like is also here." A smile appeared on Lu Cheng's face. He let out a long sigh and said, "Then go. Go and pursue your dreams. Let me see the more brilliant and beautiful you." "Ching, have you been scared silly by my mom? Even your words have become more cultured." Yanjika chuckled and put her hands around his shoulders, clasping them in front of him. "Aren't you worried?" she asked in an uncertain tone. "Yes. My little fairy is so pretty, so cute, so smart and so beautiful. I don't know how many men have bad intentions towards her." Yanjika pursed her lips and smiled. She thought for a while and said, "I'm quite confident in myself. There were many good boys who pursued me before, but I still cruelly rejected them all. I know what I want so I can persevere. You can say that I'm very rational, but you can also say that I'm very hard-hearted. But you, Ching, you have so many fans now. When you step into the dance stage and enter the professional martial arts circle in the future, there will definitely be more girls who like you and even seduce you. Without me watching over you, I really don't know if you can reject them. My mom always says that not many men can withstand this kind of test." Lu Ching didn't look back. He smiled and said, "I'm confident in myself. If I can persist in training every day, I can also persist in keeping a distance from other girls. I'm going to become a mighty one with physical invulnerability. How can I not have some extraordinary perseverance?" "Ching, your words remind me of a term in a novel." Yanjika was silent for a few seconds. She suddenly laughed and said, "Ascetic boy. What kind of term is that?" Lu Ching didn't think too much about the term and said, "Actually, it's not a big deal to be in a foreign relationship. In the age of the internet, communication is so convenient. As long as you coordinate your time, you can still chat every day. Besides, I should be a powerful dance stage fighter by then. I can definitely afford to fly once a month. But I'm a little sad that you're alone outside and can't find anyone to help you." Yenjika's eyes turned dark and bright. She replied with a smile, "I'll definitely be a tough girl of professional ninth pin by then. What can't I solve by myself? Well, when I'm there, I'll focus on my studies. I'll wear a pair of big black-rimmed glasses and dress like a nun. I won't attend any parties and will be immune to all harassment. I'll try to come back in 3 years." "Won't you become Abbess Miju?" Lu Ching was happy to hear that. He reminded her worriedly, "You must be careful of those men who try to get close to you by pretending to be your fellow countrymen." Yenjika immediately laughed and raised her head. "Are you talking about yourself? You must learn from the mistakes of others," Lu Ching said half seriously and half self-deprecatingly. Yenjika was infected by his optimism. Her melancholy melted away. She looked at the back of his head with a smile and suddenly remembered a sentence. I was young then. The corresponding organs squirmed or rose and fell. Normally speaking, every movement of the human body, no matter how weak it was, would create waves that belonged to itself. However, they were too weak and would disappear in the blink of an eye. But at this moment, these waves were ingeniously stacked together, turning into an icy chill that even normal people could feel, spreading in all directions. The leisurely geezer at the side suddenly froze. He looked over and whispered in astonishment, "You've succeeded in your visualization?" Lu Cheng's spirit had reached its limit. He couldn't hold it anymore and exited the state of unity. He opened his eyes and happily answered his master's question. "Yes, I've finally succeeded." "Finally?" Geezer was stunned. He suddenly laughed and said, "Not bad. You have some of my demeanor back then. That's all for today. Don't try to force yourself to avoid hurting your brain. Okay, you can practice by yourself now. Master was so awesome back then. I couldn't beat him even with the help of Jin Dan." Lu Cheng's heart trembled. He put away the pride and satisfaction of finally succeeding in his visualization and started to run seriously. When he was far away, Geezer cursed in his heart. "Damn it. I thought it was amazing enough that I succeeded in 1 month of visualization. Could it be that the Longhu Immortal's relic he got helped him understand the frost concept? But there's no precedent for this." Chapter 179. After jogging, Lu Cheng took a shower, changed his clothes and had breakfast. He went back to the dormitory and waited for Yan Zhika at the entrance of the 3rd dormitory. The girl was always punctual and would always arrive a little earlier than usual. It didn't take long for her to appear at the entrance of the unit. She carried a bag and walked briskly towards Lu Cheng. She was still wearing the white Songqing University martial arts suit with black edges, but this was the spare one. She wore a small pink jacket, looking like a little white flower. Lu Cheng walked up to her, took the bag and held her hand. He smiled and said, "You're recovering well. Are your muscles not sore anymore?" When they returned to the new campus last night, he pulled Yan Zhika to a secluded spot by the lake and let her sit on the bench. He applied ointment and massaged her body to relax her muscles, doing his best to be a good boyfriend. Of course, during this process, smelling the girl's fragrance, touching her smooth and elastic skin, and looking at her beautiful appearance, Lu Cheng couldn't help himself. Especially when he helped her take off her martial arts shoes and socks, and massaged the hidden wounds on her feet, he really had the illusion that he was undressing her. He almost howled at the moon and turned into a fire-breathing werewolf. Fortunately, with his extraordinary perseverance, he restrained himself in the end. He only asked for a passionate kiss after the deed was done to soothe the wounds in his heart. "Not sore anymore." Yan Zhika revealed her sweet dimples and said with a smile, "I can call you a massage expert in the future. Hehe, next time when you're tired from special training or competition, you can find me directly for physical therapy." Lu Cheng tried to keep his smile from being too bright. "At that time, there won't be any competition and I won't have to worry about it. I won't have to struggle so much. Just thinking about it filled me with anticipation." Yan Zhika rolled her black eyes and rolled her eyes at Lu Cheng. She seemed to be embarrassed and angry at the same time. "You're smiling so lecherously. Do you think I'm stupid?" "Humph, I'll definitely choose a place where other people are for physical therapy." "Where?" Lu Cheng looked at his girlfriend innocently. If he wasn't holding Yan Zhika with one hand and carrying her bag with the other, he would have rubbed his face to prevent it from being too stiff. "Everywhere." Yan Zhika covered her mouth and chuckled. The two of them had eaten breakfast and as they talked they went straight to the bus station to meet up with Guqin, Li Mao and the others. Yan Zhika noticed that Lu Cheng looked tired when they got on the car. She asked with concern, "Cheng, you look tired." Speaking of this, she suddenly thought of something that Dirty Tong said, and her pretty face suddenly turned red. She forcibly held back her laughter, turned her head to look out the window and said casually, You didn't sleep well, did you?" At this moment, the image of Lu Cheng running to the bathroom with a hunched back flashed through her mind. She had a hard time holding back her laughter, and her body was trembling slightly because of it. "Oh no, I've been led astray by Cheng and Dirty Tong." Seeing the girl like this and hearing her question, Lu Cheng's old face immediately turned red. Yes, he did have sex with her in the middle of the night. Unfortunately, when he woke up, he couldn't remember Yan Zhika's beautiful appearance in his dream, Sigh, as a young man with a strong body and vigor that far exceeds that of ordinary people, it would be strange if he didn't have any reaction in the middle of the night after being stimulated so many times that he almost couldn't control himself. Empress Dowager said to stop before going too far. What a great test. But to what extent should he stop? While thinking, he lowered his voice and explained, I'm sorry, Coach Yen. I'm not tired because of this. It's because I finally got started on visualization today. I've used up too much energy, so I'm a little tired. Visualization. Yen Zhika was born in a martial arts family, so she naturally understood that Lu Cheng's visualization was not a normal visualization. She turned around and said with surprise, Coach sure officially accepted you as a disciple? She even showed the visualization diagram to Cheng. Yes. Lu Cheng admitted frankly. Master, I didn't reveal it. She guessed it. I didn't break my promise. Yen Zhika's clear eyes were filled with obvious joy. She pursed her lips and said with a smile, You're a martial artist with a master and a background in the future. You won't be bullied by others. Even old men and women would think highly of you. It's not enough. You can only be strong if you're strong yourself. Lu Cheng was full of confidence after getting started on visualization. Yen Zhika looked at his confident and high-spirited look. Her dark and beautiful eyes sparkled like stars. She laughed in a low voice and said, My brother spent 3 months to get the beginner's level of visualization corresponding to meteor force. Even if Cheng started to comprehend the visualization diagram since the awakening of the power of frost, it still took less than a month. She couldn't hide the pride and happiness in her voice. Lu Cheng didn't mention that it only took him a week, because he thought it was due to the help of the Jin Dan. He just smiled and said, Everyone has different talents. Well, combined with the supernatural ability of frost, it won't be long before I can master the frost force. He didn't say these words to show off. He mainly wanted to share his joy with the girl he loved and to give her enough confidence. Based on what Casanova Kai Xiaoming had said about long-distance relationships, he had grasped an important point. When faced with the test of time and distance, it wasn't enough to rely on feelings alone. One had to give the other party enough confidence in all aspects. Frost force. Yen Zhika repeated in a low voice. Her eyebrows and the corners of her eyes were full of joy. Lu Cheng changed his hand from holding hers to intertwined fingers. They looked at each other and the atmosphere became warm and meaningful. They felt that any random topic was so interesting and comfortable. After a while, Yen Zhika rolled her eyes and couldn't restrain her curiosity. She pretended to ask casually, You're not tired because of that? In other words, you didn't sleep well last night? Did you have a strange dream? After asking, she blushed and looked out of the window. But she couldn't help looking back at Lu Cheng's reaction. What should I do? I've been with Cheng for a long time. I'm getting bolder and more shameless in this aspect. Lu Cheng laughed and recalled the bitterness of getting up in the middle of the night to change his pants. He answered honestly and teasingly, Yes, I had a wet dream. I dreamed that I and you, don't say it. Yen Zhika took his hand and hit his thigh. She looked out of the window in panic. But her ears were dyed with a layer of red, sparkling and translucent like a gem. After a long time she calmed down. She turned back and whispered, Big pervert. You asked but you became so shy after asking. Girls are so strange. Lu Cheng really wanted to scratch the back of his head. Yen Zhika saw that he became honest and nodded with satisfaction. She volunteered, Come closer. I'll rub your temples and show you the skills of a massage expert. Lu Cheng was pleasantly surprised. He sat closer, smelling the girl's delicate fragrance and feeling her slender but nimble fingers rubbing his temples to relieve his tiredness. Your skills are good. When did you learn? He praised sincerely. Yen Zhika raised her chin and said with a little pride, Yesterday. When you gave me a massage, I just felt it a little and learned it. I'm not as stupid as you. Yes. You're our family's IQ. Lu Cheng praised exaggeratedly. Enjoying the girl's gentleness, he felt good both physically and mentally. He only hated that the journey to the old campus was not long enough. They arrived in only half an hour. Yen Zhika's opponent in the morning was called Zhang Hengwang. He was the strongest opponent in her group. There were even battle videos of him on the internet. When analyzing the videos last night, Lu Cheng felt lucky that the girl didn't meet him in the first round. Because of her lack of actual combat experience, she could easily make mistakes. However, after yesterday's 3 matches, Lu Cheng was sure that his girlfriend had completely gotten rid of her newbie status. With her strength, superior inheritance, and him helping her to analyze her opponent's battle videos, her chance of winning was more than 70%. After the match started, it went as he expected. Yanjika took the initiative from the beginning and brought the situation into her control. Even so, as a boyfriend, Lu Qing didn't dare to relax. He was afraid that something wrong would upset the girl. At this moment he saw three figures that he wasn't familiar with, but they weren't strangers either. Dream Squad. Lu Qing said to himself. They were Chen Ruoyu, Jiang Dingy, and Feng Xiaoquan. What a coincidence. Chen Ruoyu greeted with a smile. Lu Qing was confused. Yes, it is. I didn't expect you to come here. They were already of amateur first pin and didn't need to participate in this ranking event. If you can cheer for your girlfriend, we can also cheer for our junior brothers and sisters. Chen Ruoyu chuckled and turned to Yanjika in the field. I saw you, so I came to say hello. I see. Lu Qing suddenly understood, but he didn't want to chat with her since he wasn't familiar with her. He just replied with three simple words. Chen Ruoyu didn't care about his attitude and said with a smile, do you want to work part-time during the summer? You can work part-time in our martial arts club. The pay is good, 9 to 5, and we won't ask you to reveal the unique skills of our sect. We just want to teach the students the basics. This wasn't her idea but her father's. Who wouldn't want to have a good relationship with such a talented fighter with a strong background and potential? In Jianghu, harmony wasn't the most important thing, but one more friend was one more path. The real old fox knew this. Lu Qing knew that he could reach the peak of body refining realm with Thunder Roar Zen before the summer vacation. He needed to prepare medicine soup and other things to break through to Danchi realm, which was a huge expense. He had already planned to find a way to make money. The rest of his private money had to be used for dating. 99% of it was not enough. However, Yanjika would definitely go back to Xiushan by then. Why would he stay in Songqing? Anyway, there were ways to make money in Xiushan. Thinking of this, he replied politely, I have to go back home during the summer vacation. If there is a chance, I'd love to work part-time in the martial arts club. Anytime. Chen Ruoyu maintained her standard smile. After she turned and walked away, she exhaled and said, it's so stressful to be with such a guy. Chapter 180. Lu Qing didn't care about the feelings of Chen Ruoyu and the others. Instead, he was curious about how long the triangle relationship could last and when it would happen. He turned his eyes back to the field and saw that Yanjika had finally created an opportunity by pulling back her center of gravity twice in a row. She borrowed strength and launched 24 blizzard strikes, completely suppressing Zhang Hengwang with the momentum of the mega avalanche. Zhang Hengwang made 2 efforts in a row, but they were all defused by the girl with some skills of yin-yang twist. Not only was the avalanche not interrupted, but it became more and more fierce and terrifying. In the end, it broke the opponent's stance with an overwhelming momentum. Seizing the opportunity, Yanjika visualized the explosive power of meteor fall. Adding all the strength she had borrowed before, she leaned sideways and directly knocked Zhang Hengwang out of the arena. If she hadn't held back at the last moment, her opponent would have at least broken a few ribs due to her bouncing and shaking. Yanjika wins. The referee withdrew his hand, which was trying to stop the fight. Yanjika exhaled a mouthful of foul air. She only felt that her body was empty and the muscles of her legs were trembling uncontrollably. This was a hard fight. Although her opponent was at a disadvantage at the beginning, he defended impenetrably with his rich experience and good strength. Sometimes he could even counterattack once or twice. In the last fierce attack of the mega avalanche, he had almost held on for a round. He was really a tenacious enemy who made her consume a lot of energy. Ignoring Zhang Hengwang's attempt to stand up and talk to her, Yanjika turned to look at the stands. She met Lu Cheng's eyes and smiled. No matter what, she had made it through the group. There was only one battle left before she reached amateur second pin. She just had to grit her teeth and endure it. She took back her phone and turned to walk up the aisle. After a few steps, her delicate eyebrows suddenly wrinkled. She felt the tension and trembling of the muscles of her legs. Her knees almost gave way and she fell to the ground. Before she could think of anything, she saw a blur in front of her. She saw Lu Qing jump down from the high platform like an eagle. His toes touched the ground midway and he changed his direction. He arrived in front of her in a flying posture. The whole process had the beauty of a burst of power and also the elegance of lifting heavy things as if they were light. Are you okay? Lu Qing held the girl and asked with concern. Yanjika was in a daze as if she hadn't come back to her senses yet. Her face was full of confusion until her body was held by her boyfriend. Then she smiled little by little. Her watery eyes looked to the side, hiding a little pride and joy. She pretended not to care and said, "Nothing. I just consumed too much energy." "You scared me to death just now. You appeared in front of me in the blink of an eye. Didn't I see you almost fall?" Lu Qing looked around and found that there were still many people who had noticed his feat. They were full of admiration and gave him a thumbs up. He really wanted sex more than his life. It was just a piece of cake. Lu Qing smiled contentedly and suggested to the girl, "Let's go straight back to the hotel and not wait for them. Let's make the best use of the time to recover. The most important battle is in the afternoon. We'll be fine once we get through it." "Yes." Yanjika knew that this was the best and most reasonable choice, so she nodded politely. Just as she was about to support her boyfriend, she saw Lu Qing crouch down and pat her on the shoulder. "Come on, I'll carry you." Yanjika wanted to say, "That's so embarrassing." But considering the tense muscles in her body and her boyfriend's attitude, she swallowed the words. She looked around and then lowered her head guiltily. She loosened her bun and let her black hair hang down, covering half of her cheeks. I'm an ostrich," she muttered to herself and leaned on Lu Cheng's back. She put her hands on her shoulders and didn't let her chest touch her boyfriend's body. Lu Cheng knew that the girl was shy, so he talked about what happened before to divert her attention. "I just met Chen Ruoyu and her friends. She politely invited me to work in her martial arts club during the summer vacation." Yenjika was really interested. She stared at the back of her boyfriend's head and said with a faint smile, "So are you going? Isn't it up to you?" Lu Cheng took the opportunity to ask, "Ko, are you going back to Xioshan during the summer vacation?" "Of course, I'm a little homesick." Yenjika's tone became light. "At most, I'll take a week or two to play with Grandpa. Isn't that right? Since you're going back to Xioshan, wouldn't it be crazy for me to stay in Songqing?" Lu Qing didn't slow down and carried the girl out of the second hall. Yenjika asked thoughtfully, "Qing, you should have practiced martial arts to the bone and body during the summer vacation, right? That was the peak of the body refining state. No need for summer vacation." Lu Qing's answer was concise and full of confidence. But he immediately became long-winded and told the girl about his plan. "I thought about it. If I want to break through to the Danchi state, I can't just rely on 10,000 yuan. During the summer vacation, I'll check if there are any small challenge tournaments in the province and take some time to get some prize money. If there's no money, I'll ask my classmates for help and work part-time in the martial arts club." Yenjika heard that Lu Qing had already made plans and preparations. She bit her lower lip with her white teeth to hide her smile. But she couldn't hide the gentleness in her expression. Her hands on Lu Cheng's shoulders unconsciously moved to his front. Lu Cheng's heart skipped a beat when he felt the girl leaning on him gently. He felt her strong and straight body. It was the season of spring and flowers were in full bloom. He was wearing thin clothes, but Yenjika had just finished a match and was feeling hot, so she didn't wear the pink and white jacket. Lu Cheng silently recited the names of the gods and Buddhas, trying to divert his attention to more important things like last time. Ko had fought 4 matches in a day and a half, so she was very tired. "I'll give her a good physical therapy later, at least let her recover 70% or 80% of her strength. Speaking of the summer vacation, I wonder if the special training will be suspended during the 1st of May to let everyone take a breather. Little Ming's girlfriend will come to Songqing to play. Should I ask Ku to go sightseeing with the nearby scenic spots?" He talked with Yenjika while thinking aimlessly. Finally they arrived at the hotel. This time, Yenjika learned her lesson and went back to her and Guqing's room to take a shower, so as not to add fuel to the fire and arouse Cheng's beast. Lu Qing also took the opportunity to wash his face and sober up. He didn't forget that the black fertilizer would evaporate and so on. Maybe it was because of his good performance yesterday that he could control himself at the critical moment. Yenjika trusted him more today. She directly lay on the bed with a bashful attitude and constantly changed her position to match Lu Cheng's massage position. Looking at her light and soft body and boundless beauty, Lu Qing raised his head and felt that tongue twisters couldn't stop him anymore. "Qing, what are you doing?" Yenjika just happened to lean on the pillow. Lu Qing smiled bitterly. Reciting the Heart Sutra, "Color is emptiness, emptiness is color." Yenjika almost burst out laughing. She forced herself to hold back and said with her body slightly trembling, "Recite it well, I believe you." "I don't believe in myself." Lu Qing wailed to himself and exhaled. He visualized a thunder cloud and tightened some of his muscles. When he pressed the girl's thigh, he exploded the vibration force. This was a flash of inspiration after yesterday's massage. He came up with a new idea for the use of Thunder Roar Zen: control the strength to relieve the deep fatigue in the muscles. Yenjika suddenly answered with a hum, and asked in surprise, "Ching, what's this technique? It's so strange." "It's the daily use of tremor force. How do you feel?" Lu Qing said with a little pride. Thunder Roar Zen was originally a martial art that could be used to train the bone marrow and the viscera. But it still felt strange to use it as a massage technique. "I wonder if Master will beat me." "Tremor force?" Yenjika slightly opened her pink lips and revealed her white teeth. Her face was adorable. This was the tremor force that could defeat most of the professional ninth pin fighters. Just to give me a massage? Qing is so creative. But why do I feel so happy? Yeah, how do you feel? Lu Qing asked again to confirm the final strength. Yenjika pursed her lips and curved her eyebrows. A little bit more gently. Otherwise, it would affect other parts of the body and make her feel uncomfortable. After that, Lu Qing, who was concentrating on controlling the strength, didn't think too much. But when he switched back to the normal massage technique to recover his energy, he saw Yenjika fall asleep without any defense. He felt a little restless and had to go to the bathroom to calm himself down. He went back and forth 3 times. When Yenjika woke up, she saw Lu Qing was still busy giving her a massage. She felt warm in her heart and asked softly, "Qing, are you tired?" He looked very tired. Tremor force was not a martial art with low consumption. "I'm okay." Lu Qing tried to stay awake and said, "How do you feel? How much have you recovered?" Yenjika got up from the bed and slowly made a routine. She said with surprise and joy, "It's almost the same as when I went out this morning." "That's good. I'll go out to buy some food. You lie down for a while." Seeing the girl's surprise, Lu Qing felt that all his hard work was not in vain. And at this level, the rest of the fatigue could only be recovered by itself. Seeing him go out in a hurry, Yenjika leaned on the pillow and smiled gently. Her eyes were like water. At 1 o'clock, the two returned to the arena and received the results of the draw from the service desk. Yenjika vs He Lingling. Lu Qing endured the exhaustion and the throbbing pain caused by excessive mental exhaustion and immediately looked up the information of his opponent. "She seems to be a little stronger than your opponent in the morning." He made a judgment while looking. Yenjika was also looking at her phone. She nodded slightly and said, "She's good at dragon shape and practicing the spine. She's very good at catching. Don't think about letting her catch. Dragon claws are mainly tearing. You'll get hurt if you're not careful." Lu Qing started a discussion with the girl. After a long time, Yenjika had a general idea. She sighed and said, "I just checked QQ. Qing said that although senior brother Sun Jian won the last match, he still didn't make it to the next round. The ranking event really depends on luck. But my little fairy is very lucky," Lu Qing said with emotion. Yenjika looked at him with a smile and said, "You're going to participate in the professional ranking event in April. How do you feel about your luck? Do you want my luck to shine on you?" Lu Qing laughed in a low voice and said, "Coach Yen, can I brag?" "Brag." Yenjika's eyes lit up and she urged him curiously. "Based on the current situation, I think I'm the standard to measure other people's luck." Lu Qing said with a smile, "You're lucky if you don't get my number. If you do, you can only say you have bad luck." He said this with confidence and high spirits. He had mastered the Thunder Roar Zen and was sure to master the Frost Force before the end of April. If he didn't even have the confidence to make it to the ranking event, he might as well go back and kill himself with a piece of tofu. At 2:50, Yenjika stepped into the ring and faced the last and most crucial opponent of the ranking event. If she won this match, her previous efforts would be meaningful. If she lost this match, she had to start all over again. He Lingling was about the same height as Yenjika. She looked more solemn. At this moment, she took a breath and said with a smile, "I thought it would be easier. Those who can make it to the next round are not easy to deal with." Yenjika didn't fall for her opponent's arrogance. "I won't be careless." Chapter 181. He Lingling was stunned for a moment, then she chuckled. "I thought a girl like you who is spoiled and everything goes smoothly would be easy to be complacent and arrogant. What does she mean by being spoiled and everything goes smoothly?" Yenjika felt that He Lingling's words seemed to be complimenting her, but in fact there were sharp needles hidden in them. She felt a little uncomfortable, but she had received a good education since she was young, so she didn't want to argue with her enemy. So she closed her eyes, adjusted her emotions and prepared for the best battle state. She felt He Lingling's noisy voice gradually fade away, and her mind slowly cleared. She suddenly recalled what had happened in the past few days. Mom had acquiesced to Cheng's existence, so she didn't have to worry about it, feel guilty and worry about it anymore. She took this opportunity to tell Cheng about her plan to study abroad, and got his understanding and support. She didn't have to worry about it all the time, a single man and a single woman in a room. Furthermore, there was intimate skin contact, but Cheng still endured it. He would rather suffer by himself than let me be disturbed. This proved that he didn't like me purely because of lust. Everything was so happy and relaxing. The burden in her heart was lifted layer by layer. So free and satisfied. Yanjika opened her eyes and felt refreshed. Her mind was unprecedentedly lively, and all the distracting thoughts in her mind faded away, leaving only the match in front of her. The last match. When she was a little impatient, the referee raised his right hand and waved it down. Start. He Lingling had been preparing for a long time. She leaned forward, bounced her spine, and pounced forward like a dragon, approaching Yanjika at an extremely fast speed. Dragon form, rising dragon. She had practiced this move to the current level so she could forcibly pull back her center of gravity with her spine like Lu Cheng and Yanjika. However, she still lacked fine control of her body muscles, which could easily hurt other parts of her body. So she wouldn't use this move under normal circumstances. And if this move was cultivated to the peak of the body refinement realm, with a flick of the spine, most of the muscles in the body would exert force, vibrating and stirring the air. Combined with the sound of breathing in the mouth, it could create a low roar like a dragon's roar, producing an effect similar to the lion's roar. Seeing that He Lingling was almost in front of her, Yanjika, who had lost her balance, calmed down and visualized a scene of rolling snow. She shook her right arm and hit out. He Lingling had already raised her right hand, clenched it into a fist and struck out from the side. Bang! As soon as the two of them collided, He Lingling's 5 fingers popped out, making a series of crackling sounds. Her iron fingers were like hooks, grabbing Yanjika's fist. Dragon form, dragon claw tier. Yanjika was no stranger to this move. She had been fighting according to the method she had discussed with Lu Cheng before, which was to leave as soon as she touched the dragon. Now, with the help of the rebound of the collision, she quickly withdrew her right fist and narrowly avoided the dragon's claw. At the same time, she twisted her waist and tightened her thighs. Her left foot kicked out like a straight soft whip towards He Lingling's knee. I don't believe you can use the dragon claw skill. At this moment, He Lingling bent her spine and bent her body, lowering her body in time. Her right hand's 5 fingers tore through the wind, fiercely grabbing Yanjika's ankle. Dragon form, the most important part of training was the spine, which was the dragon of the body. Yanjika's heart tightened. She knew that once she was caught by the dragon's claw and torn with her listening skill, she would have no time to react. Her left leg would be temporarily disabled, and it would be difficult to recover without several weeks or even months of treatment. This kind of move was one of the main culprits that caused more serious injuries in the arena matches. Because it was difficult for the referee to make a judgment in time, if his vision was slightly off, it would be difficult for him to know whether the next move would be a grab or a tear, and he would not be able to judge in advance whether the captured fighter had the means to deal with it. If he was half a beat slower, once the force was released, the result would be irreversible. At this moment, Yanjika's left leg had just whipped towards Yanjika, and it seemed that it would be difficult for her to change her move or dodge. She could only see if there was a way to create an instant burst of strength to escape the dragon's claw. The situation was very dangerous. But suddenly, her body trembled strangely. Her left leg paused and she twisted her waist and back. Her whole body soared into the air, and with a spring of her right leg, she kicked He Lingling's chin. Chain kick, one of the skills of the yin-yang twist. This move was like a stroke of genius, completely out of He Lingling's expectations. Seeing that the tip of the opponent's foot was just inches away, she could only bend her waist back, and in a flash she completed a difficult iron bridge. Even so, she still felt a burning pain on her chin as if she had been brushed by something. With her ability to control her center of gravity, she could not maintain her balance like Lu Cheng, so she simply went with the flow and rolled on the ground like a lazy donkey. Yanjika forced herself to use the chain kick, but when she landed, she also could not maintain her center of gravity. She stumbled 2 steps to the side and barely managed to stabilize herself. One leaped up like a carp, while the other turned around with the help of the rebound of her feet. The two resumed the confrontation before the match began. Seeing this, Lu Qing finally felt relieved and let out a long sigh. He was so worried that he almost thought that Yan Zhika could not resist and had to admit defeat. Of course, if they were in each other's shoes, he thought that he had more than 10 ways to break He Lingling's dragon claw. Yan Zhika adjusted her breath and began to attack again. This time, she changed her fighting style, which was closer to the style of the 8-diagram swimming body palm. She slid to the side of Yan Zhika and gave her a punch. He Lingling did not have time to use her dragon claw, so she could only raise her right arm to block the punch. Yan Zhika immediately used the force to swing her body and fiercely kicked out her right leg, but it could not pass the knee. Bam! He Lingling kicked out her right leg to block the attack. Her body leaned slightly to the side, and her 5 fingers were like iron, tearing the air in the air. Yan Zhika did not stop. She slid and stepped to the side of Yan Zhika again while avoiding the enemy's attack. Lu Qing had been sparring with Yan Zhika every day, so he was familiar with this martial art. It was a palm technique passed down in the Ji family, called 9 Palaces Flying Dragon Palm, which focused on attacking from the side and the back. Lin Ke did not like it very much, so he hardly used it. Yan Zhika was using it now but not exactly copying it. Her footwork was the footwork of the Flying Dragon Palm, but her hand-fighting and leveraging skills belonged to the 24 Blizzard Strikes. Yan Zhika's figure fluttered and her posture was graceful. She seized the opportunity to use the brutal blizzard fiercer and fiercer, but she was not greedy. Once Yan Zhika used her dragon claw, she would immediately move away and change her position. Lu Qing nodded slightly to show his agreement, which put He Lingling at a disadvantage. She could not use her strength and could only passively defend. Now it's time to see who is more impatient, he whispered to himself. The reason why he did not say who was close to the limit first was that both of them did not have a clear understanding of each other's condition. In this case, the one who was impatient first would easily expose the problem. It was very likely that the one who failed first would find out that the other was already at the limit after the failure, and would be able to win by parrying a few more moves. Lu Qing could only pray anxiously, hoping that his tremor force massage would work. Yan Zhika was born with a weak constitution. Although she had consciously made up for it and done targeted training, she was still a little weaker than other martial artists of the same level. Therefore, the more she fought, the more anxious she became. The more she fought, the faster she felt her strength dropping. She wanted to risk using the 24 Blizzard Strikes several times, but was suppressed by the rationality and logic in her bones. She believed that He Lingling did not know about her congenital weakness. Therefore, there was more than a 70% chance that Yan Zhika would lose her composure because of her calmness. Perseverance was victory. After another round of wandering and tangling, He Lingling became more anxious. When Yan Zhika slid behind her, she suddenly exerted force on her feet and her spine suddenly bounced back. She moved horizontally and bumped into Yan Zhika, who had just stood firm. Dragon form, flying dragon hits rock. Yan Zhika had no time to dodge, so she had to put up her arms in front of her to block the collision. A collision followed by a flip. He Lingling's spine undulated like a trembling great spear. Using her body as the shaft, she punched out with her left fist, explosively smashing towards her opponent's shoulder at close range. Dragon form, turning spear. Dragon form is also a spear form. Facing this, Yan Zhika took a deep breath. Instead of dodging in a hurry, she lowered her waist and sat down, visualizing a mountain peak covered with thousands of years of snow. A meteor fell from the sky and hit the peak, creating a deafening explosion that made hundreds of thousands of tons of snow collapse. Bam! She put her feet inward, turned her waist, and punched upward with her right hand like a hammer. Meteor fall, mega avalanche. Bam! When their fists collided, He Lingling's body swayed, while Yan Zhika seemed to have lost her center of gravity. She stumbled backward, but also avoided the dragon claw that followed closely behind. She took 2 steps back to stabilize her center of gravity, but according to the on-the-spot techniques that Lu Qing taught her during the sparring session, she took 2 more steps back to accumulate her strength. Seeing that her opponent's center of gravity was scattered, He Lingling was delighted. She exerted strength in her feet, pounced forward, and stretched out her dragon claw. Just when she thought she was about to succeed, Yan Zhika suddenly stopped. Her feet were like 2 nails firmly planted in the ground. She leaned back, then swung forward. Her accumulated strength, meteor fall and mega avalanche burst out together, activating a powerful and direct heart-drilling hammer. Bam! He Lingling's dragon claw couldn't hold Yan Zhika's fist, and was knocked away by her fierce strength. Yenjika used the rebound to whip out her left leg. When Yenjika hurriedly blocked with her leg, she took the opportunity to withdraw her leg, clenched her hands into fists, and hit her opponent's temples. Twin peaks piercing the ear. He Lingling put up her arms and barely resisted. She felt that Yenjika was stronger than her. Yenjika didn't show any mercy. She suddenly tightened her right leg and kicked at her opponent. He Lingling only had time to wriggle her spine and hurriedly withdraw her leg. Chapter 182. In the arena, one would be disappointed while the other would be excited. He Lingling and Yenjika respectively interpreted these two roles, showing the sadness and happiness of life. After venting most of her emotions, Yenjika turned around and walked to the supervisor. Then she realized that her muscles were tight and her legs were weak. She had consumed more energy than in the last match. If I hadn't been able to take down He Lingling with that wave of attacks, I would have most likely been the one to lose. She thought to herself with some relief and lingering fear. She stood by the side of the field with trembling legs, waiting for the competition supervisor to fill in the final confirmation form and stamp it. The waiting process allowed her to recover some of her strength. She was able to steadily walk to the higher level of the stands and meet up with Lu Qing. "Are you happy and excited?" Lu Qing held the girl and handed her an unscrewed energy drink with a smile. "Yes." Yenjika nodded hard and took the drink. She gulped it down with sweat on her forehead. Lu Qing lowered his voice and said half jokingly and half expectantly, "Are you so excited that you want to kiss me as a celebration? I don't mind being a prop." Yenjika spat out the drink in her mouth onto half of Lu Qing's face. She rolled her eyes at Lu Qing, feeling both annoyed and amused at the same time. She said clearly, "You big bad wolf." Lu Qing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He took the tissue he prepared for his girlfriend and wiped his face clean first. "It's fine if you don't want to kiss me. Why did you spray my face? Humph, do you want to choke me?" Yenjika saw her boyfriend take out a new tissue and carefully wipe the sweat on her forehead and face. She closed her eyes and enjoyed the delicate gentleness. Lu Qing laughed and said, "Then you'd better spray my face." After drying the sweat and resting for a few minutes, they came to the office of the Martial Arts Association next to the number 1 hall and handed the form to the staff. The staff found the video of the match, checked the result and put it into the computer. Then they stamped the form and asked Yenjika to take photos and get a certificate next door. After some work, Yenjika got a certificate of amateur second pin with a unique serial number. Her rank could be found on the official website of the Martial Arts Association according to her name and serial number. She was a real amateur second pin martial artist. Lu Qing felt like he had gotten the certificate himself. He looked at it fondly and praised, "Ku, your certificate photo is so beautiful. It's the first time I've seen someone take such a beautiful certificate photo. Well, it's hard to give up on one's natural beauty. You look good in any photo." Yenjika glared at him. "Qing, there's one thing I couldn't understand when I read novels. Now I finally understand why they use that word to describe boys." "What's that?" Lu Qing asked curiously. Yenjika pretended to gnash his teeth and said, "What a glib tongue." Lu Qing was a little embarrassed because he had misunderstood. But there was no need to talk about that kind of topic in public. He smiled and said, "This is a sincere compliment from the bottom of my heart. Look at my eyes, they are so sincere and magnanimous." Yenjika held back her laughter and tugged at him. All right, I believe you. Don't show off your exaggerated acting skills in front of others. Where are we going now?" Lu Qing knew when to stop and change the topic. Yenjika took out her cell phone from the pocket of her jacket and looked at the time. "Qing should be done soon. Let's wait for her." "Okay." Lu Qing felt relieved after his girlfriend had successfully reached the level of amateur second pin. He finally had the mood to cheer for the other teammates. Qing was quite talented. Her strength was a little stronger than the boys of the same level, and she had a good foundation. Therefore, after practicing the mountain-moving fist, which was a suitable fighting style for her, her progress was very obvious. Among the teams competing for the amateur fourth pin, she could almost be considered as one of the strongest few. She defeated her opponents easily and won the competition with a perfect record. Now she only had to wait for the final battle in the evening. "Sister Wen's match is at 4:30. Let's go back to the hotel and have a good rest. I'm exhausted," Qing said casually after meeting up with Lu Qing and Yenjika. No matter how strong her body was and how much she suppressed her opponent, she was exhausted after fighting 5 matches in 2 days. She only wanted to recover as much as possible. The most important match in the evening. However, this arrangement was fair because her opponent had also fought 5 matches in the group stage. Yan Zhika had been focused on her own ranking and didn't pay attention to other matches. She only knew that Sun Jian had been eliminated. She asked curiously, "Do you think Sister Wen and the others have a good chance?" In the match in the morning, they all seemed to have met strong opponents and lost the match. "Yes, Ko. Don't you know? There are fewer amateur 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th pin fighters, so there are more places. The top 2 in each group can win," Guqing answered. This was the Martial Arts Association's way of encouraging the lower-level fighters to give more fans the confidence and motivation to pursue the higher amateur ranks. For example, in this year's amateur 4th pin competition, there were 296 participants, and 50 places were given. They were divided into 50 groups and the top 2 in each group would win. The winner would get the ranking. The ratio was close to 17%. Compared to this, the probability of amateur second pin was less than 10%. Li Xiaowen, Wu Meng and Jiang Fuxing were not talented, but they were hardworking. They insisted on participating in the martial arts training every day, which made them better than most of the fighters who signed up for this competition. Besides, the 24 Blizzard Strikes was not an ordinary fighting style. As long as they were not too unlucky, they could get the certificate of amateur 4th pin after 2 or 3 tries. However, if they wanted to go higher, they would have to participate in martial arts club disciples and martial arts school students, which made it much more difficult. "I see." Yan Zhika's eyebrows relaxed. She was sincerely happy for her senior brothers and sisters. If she was happy, she would want others to be happy too. Li Mao and Lin Hua finished the competition earlier than Yan Zhika. They were lucky enough to win all the matches in their groups. Back in the hotel, Lu Qing saw Guqing go back to her room. He took out the room card and said to Yan Zhika as usual while opening the door, "Ku, go take a shower and get a massage. You can recover early in case there are any hidden injuries." As soon as he finished speaking, a few ideas popped into his mind. Later on, it would be a man and a woman alone in a hotel room with 2 beds. This time, Ku had already won the ranking, so there was no more competition. Thump, thump, thump. He didn't know why his heart suddenly beat faster. He felt his lips were a little dry, as if he was expecting and longing for something. Yan Zhika's body started to tremble in his slightly heavy breathing. She lowered her head and looked at the carpet beside her. She said in a low voice, Ching, why don't you come to our room?" "What?" Lu Qing was stunned at first, but then he understood what she meant. She wanted to have a massage with Guqing so they wouldn't be alone anymore. A wave of disappointment hit him. He turned to look at Yan Zhika, only to see the girl sneaking a glance at him and then quickly lowering her eyes like a dodging deer. She was a little shy and a little inexplicably scared. "So cute. I'm not ready yet." A thought flashed through Lu Qing's mind. He exhaled and smiled. "Okay, send me a message after you take a shower." Yan Zhika's dimples blossomed little by little. She looked at Lu Qing with sparkling eyes and said in a low voice, "Qing? What?" Lu Qing asked blankly. The girl smiled and didn't answer. She turned around gracefully, waved her hand and walked into her room with light steps. When the door was closed, Lu Qing's phone beeped with a message. He picked it up and saw Yan Zhika's blushing smile. "You're so nice. Qing, you're so nice." Lu Qing connected the 2 sentences together. His disappointment disappeared and his smile reappeared. He was happy and satisfied. Back in his room, he turned on the tap and washed his face with cold water to relieve the throbbing in his head and his tiredness. Thunder Roar Zen on massage would also consume a lot of energy, but he still used the normal massage to recover. After such a long time of physical therapy, he had already reached his limit. Looking at his high-spirited but tired face in the mirror, Lu Qing took a deep breath and made a self-examination. His attitude just now was not right. Maybe it was the influence of the intimacy and stimulation in the past 2 days. After Ku refused to be alone with him, he was so disappointed that it almost showed on his face. Boys have this kind of desire. They always want to go further and be more intimate with the girl they love. There's nothing wrong with that. But they can't show that they only want to do this kind of thing. More importantly, they should respect the girl's idea. Ku was a conservative girl and it was her first love. They had been dating for only a month at most. At the beginning, because of the sudden confession, she needed to adjust her mood and accept it gradually. It was normal for her to be afraid of this kind of intimacy and want to adapt to it bit by bit. Now that they kissed passionately, it was because of his good performance that she was so kind to him. After silently repeating the word respect many times, Lu Qing received a message from Yanjika that he could go now. Thanks to the existence of Guqing, Lu Qing's heart was still beating wildly when he massaged the muscles and bruises. But at least he was able to control himself and didn't need to go to the bathroom to calm down. Yanjika looked at him with a faint smile and said with concern, "Don't use the tremor force this time. Anyway, Coach sure told us to focus on recovery tomorrow. No need to relieve the tiredness at a deep level." Lu Qing couldn't use it even if he wanted to. He immediately agreed and continued his previous work. His eyes were focused and his hands were skillful. "Are you two trying to irritate me, a single dog, to death?" Guqing looked for a while and suddenly pressed the pillow to her face. She whined, "I can only wait for Sister One to come back so that we can have physical therapy." Yanjika snickered, "Then you should find a boyfriend soon." "But old Xiu doesn't like me," Guqing answered sullenly. Yanjika knew that she said something wrong and quickly said, "How about I give you a massage later? Sister One will be late when she comes back." "You're not with Qing?" Guqing took away the pillow and asked in confusion. Yanjika hummed, "We don't have to stick together all the time. Qing, I just want to borrow your girlfriend for 10 minutes. Guqing put her hands together and begged pitifully. She also wanted to have a massage early to recover early so that she could face the final battle in a better state. Lu Qing smiled and said, "It's a special situation. I'll reluctantly agree." When it was almost 4 o'clock, the massage was over. Yanjika looked at Lu Qing eagerly and whispered in his ear, "I'll come to you after I give Qing a massage." "Eh." Lu Qing smiled sincerely. Back in his room, he washed his face with cold water so that he wouldn't fall asleep due to tiredness and couldn't get up to open the door for the girl. After browsing the forum and Weibo for less than 20 minutes, he heard the expected knock on the door. When he opened the door, he was stunned as if there was a flash of light in front of his eyes. Yanjika had changed her clothes. She was wearing a white cotton skirt, a pink jacket, a pair of cute canvas shoes and a pair of skin-tight stockings, which made her legs look long, straight and hazy. Her black hair hung down like satin, and her black and thin eyebrows set off her bright eyes. Her cute nose was straight and delicate, and her pink lips were moist and attractive. Looking at Lu Qing's stunned and slightly dazed eyes, Yanjika looked at herself up and down nervously. "It's a little weird to wear socks like this. I wanted to wear boat socks, but isn't it a little cold? And there are some bruises on my legs that haven't faded yet." While talking, she found the burning gaze in Lu Qing's eyes and suddenly understood. She looked to the side shyly and hummed in a low voice, "Big pervert." Lu Qing's face turned red and he looked away with difficulty. He coughed and was about to shamelessly say a few words of praise when Yanjika looked at her toes. Her eyes flashed and her face was slightly red. She pretended to be relaxed and said, "Can I ask you out on a date?" She had already planned to take the initiative to propose a date to show her feelings for him in the past 2 days. "Date? Where are we going?" Lu Qing asked in surprise. Yanjika held Xiao Xiao in her arms and said proudly, "The ocean aquarium, of course. Didn't you miss it so much?" "When did I miss it so much?" Lu Qing's brain started to work. "It's not even 4:40 if we go there now. The tickets will stop at 5:30 and the aquarium will close at 6. More than an hour is enough for us to walk around. Let's go." Yanjika was about to turn around when she saw the tiredness in Lu Qing's eyes. She immediately felt sorry for him. "Qing, you look very tired." "I'm okay," Lu Qing said with difficulty. Yanjika thought for a while and said with a faint smile, "Why don't you take a rest before we go? Just make it before 5 o'clock. Speaking of this, she chuckled. "My little massage expert will also help you massage your temples." Lu Qing checked his condition. He was afraid that he would not remember anything about marine life later. He could only smile and say, "Okay then." He turned sideways to let her into the house. Yanjika had just taken a step when she saw the familiar environment. Thinking of the previous massage, her heart suddenly beat faster. A man and a woman alone again. There's no match tonight. Will Chung lose control? If he can't control himself and does something bad to me, what should I do? To what extent should I tolerate him? To what extent? Yanjika only felt that her face was a little hot and her heart was beating a little faster. Her steps were a little difficult, but she still walked into the room in a daze. She did not dare to look at Lu Qing and pointed to the bed by the window. "Lie down." Lu Qing raised his head with a pillow and tried his best to lie inwards, leaving space for the girl to massage his temples. Yan Zhika pressed her skirt and sat on one knee, leaving only her feet in canvas shoes outside. Then she bent down and stretched out her hands, one on the original side and the other on the top of Lu Cheng's head. At the same time she rubbed his temples on both sides. The swelling pain in his temples was relieved, and the sweet fragrance of the girl entered his nose. Lu Cheng relaxed his mind and the tiredness that he had been trying so hard to suppress gushed out like a tide. He fell into a deep sleep before he had time to enjoy the gentleness of the girl. Well, only 15 minutes of sleep, Yanjika's heart was still beating fast. She could not help but think of the scene where Lu Cheng pulled her down and kissed her. Should I struggle or should I not resist? When similar thoughts flashed through her mind, she suddenly heard Lu Cheng's breathing become long and rhythmic. She looked carefully and found that her boyfriend had fallen asleep in just a few seconds. Is he so tired? Yanjika was quite surprised and distressed. As a girl from a martial arts family, she knew how much the tremor force consumed physical and mental strength. But she always had the impression that Lu Cheng's physical strength was limitless. So even when she saw her boyfriend's sleepy face, she subconsciously thought that it was just so, and that he was still far from being really tired. But now, when Lu Cheng's tiredness and fatigue were exposed in front of her eyes, she suddenly realized that her boyfriend also had a limit. He was also a human being who would be tired. Cousin's tremor punch can only hit 4 times. He used the tremor force in the normal hand to massage me for more than an hour? He doesn't really have limitless physical strength. I am his limit? Yanjika's eyes were slightly red. She gently bit her lips and unconsciously smiled. She reached out to touch Lu Cheng's eyebrows. This fool, he can't even sleep well and still frowns. Is he still worried about something in his dream? Is he worried that he overslept and can't catch up with the date at the aquarium? The girl was lost in thought. When she saw Lu Cheng's eyebrows relax because of her unconscious action, she suddenly raised the corner of her mouth and outlined a naughty smile. Her slender white fingers moved like playing a musical note, smoothing Lu Cheng's eyebrows little by little. When she saw that he was sleeping peacefully and without the maturity when he woke up, she nodded with satisfaction. She let her fingers slide down and gently outlined the lines of his face. After a while, her smile became more and more obvious. Her fingers danced and lively, writing a word on each side of Lu Cheng's cheeks. Idiot. 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 Silently repeating it several times, Yanjika smiled like a little fox who had stolen a hen. Her fingers continued to slide down, rubbing her boyfriend's newly grown beard stubble and brushing his lips. This is the bad guy who always bullies me. The girl stared at his lips and suddenly felt dizzy. She suddenly thought of Lu Cheng's usual sucking and licking of her lips. She thought of his hungry expression as if he was tasting the most delicious food in the world. She thought of his busy figure in the morning and his tired expression when he went out in the morning. Yanjika's eyes unconsciously became tipsy. Looking at the sleeping Lu Cheng, her pink lips slightly opened to make a silent declaration. Sleeping Beauty, I'm your prince. She played with her hair and lowered her head little by little. Her heart was beating fast and her pretty face was turning red inch by inch. Slowly the girl's pink lips fell on Lu Cheng's mouth. She imitated him and carefully began to rub. After doing all this, she suddenly raised her head and touched her lips. She was a little confused and a little surprised and thought, why is his mouth so sweet? Looking down, Yanjika saw that Lu Cheng's mouth was full of the luster of her lip balm. No wonder the taste is so familiar, she laughed in a low voice. Her eyes were blurred and charming. At this time the clouds moved and the sun came out. The light shone in through the window and sprinkled on the young boy who was sleeping soundly and the shy girl who was looking at him. It was bright, quiet, and warm. When Lu Cheng woke up, it was already dark outside. Yanjika was sitting at the table with the lamp lit. Bathing in the warm orange light, she was concentrating on the textbooks that she had forgotten to put back in the bag. Her back was slender and graceful. What time is it? Lu Cheng asked blankly. He picked up the phone beside him. His head was still a little swollen and empty. Hearing this, Yanjika turned around. But just as she glanced at him, she suddenly turned back and said with a red face, It's 6:10. 6:10? Lu Cheng's phone showed the same time. There were 2 missed calls from Sun Jian. After more than 10 seconds, he suddenly woke up and blamed himself. I overslept. The girl he loved took the initiative to invite him on a date and he overslept. Yanjika turned her face and bit her lip. She said with a clear and happy smile, I didn't wake you up on purpose. I thought you were too tired. There will be a lot of chances in the future. Listening to her brisk tone, Lu Qing was amused and his mood improved. That's right. There will be a lot of chances. He got out of bed and put on his shoes. He planned to wash his face and completely wake up before returning senior brother Sun Jian's call. Yanjika secretly glanced at his lips. When he brushed past her, she hurriedly turned back and looked at the textbook seriously. Maybe it's time to check out. Their rooms were not due until tomorrow. But later they would go to the martial arts arena for dinner and cheer for their teammates. After that, they would go back to the old campus together. Lu Qing had just walked out of the bathroom. Before he could say anything, he heard a knock on the door, followed by Sun Jian's shout, "Qing, are you there?" "Yes, yes, yes." Lu Qing hurriedly answered and turned the doorknob. Behind him, Yanjika had just packed up her textbooks and other things. She blushed and blurted out, "Don't." Her "don't" came to an abrupt end. Lu Qing had opened the door and looked at her in confusion. Sun Jian stood outside the door and said with a smile, "Qing, are you asleep? You didn't answer my call. It's time to check out. Go directly to the martial arts arena to cheer for them." Okay. Lu Qing turned around and smiled. At this time, Sun Jian's eyes focused and he was stunned for a moment. Then he revealed a teasing smile and said, "Qing, yes?" Lu Qing responded. Sun Jian patted him on the shoulder and said in a heavy tone, "Remember to wipe your mouth after eating." "What?" Lu Qing was at a loss. Sun Jian raised his eyebrows and showed an "I know" expression. He didn't ask more. Humming a pop song, he walked to the elevator. Guqing just said that Yanjika wasn't in her room. What's going on? Lu Qing was confused and turned to the bathroom. Yanjika held her textbooks and lowered her head, showing her dimples. She said quickly, "I'll go back to my room to tidy up." She ran past Lu Qing and out of the room. Strange. Lu Qing shook his head and walked into the bathroom. He subconsciously looked at himself in the mirror. When he saw it, he was stunned. His lips were full of the familiar color of lipstick. How could this be? He came to his senses and took out his phone, feeling both annoyed and amused. He sent a message to Yanjika with a shocked emoji. "You female rogue." After sending the message, his face was full of smiles. He carefully tasted the remaining girl's taste on his lips again and cleaned it up. Peach-flavored," Yanjika quickly replied with a pitiful emoji. "It's not my fault. It's all your fault, you big pervert. You want to play dirty even when you're asleep. I was rubbing for you, then you pressed me down and kissed me in a daze." "Really?" Lu Qing replied with an emoji with a question mark on its head. "I can instinctively kiss Yanjika when I'm asleep? This is really a skill." Yanjika replied with a righteous face, "It's fake. Humph, if I didn't almost wake you up with a paper wipe, I wouldn't have left any evidence." Lu Qing burst into laughter. He realized that he was really kissed by the girl when he was asleep. He only regretted that he didn't wake up at that time to feel the beauty and seize the opportunity to kiss her back. In the competition at night, Jiang Fuxing met a good opponent and failed in the final test. Guqing, Li Xiaowen and Wu Mingshun passed smoothly and got the certificate of amateur fourth pin. Li Mao was lucky. His opponent in the last test was injured in the previous competition, so he seized the opportunity and defeated him. Therefore he also became an amateur second pin fighter. Lin Hua, who was usually quiet, passed 6 tests in a row and was determined to be an amateur third pin fighter, which made her boyfriend Sun Jian envious. The next morning, Lu Qing continued to visualize the frozen ground map, memorizing the subtle changes of muscles, fascias, and viscera bit by bit. This was a painstaking effort, so he was not in a hurry. When the martial arts special training began, Geezer Sher clapped his hands and said, "You all did well in this ranking event. You didn't disgrace me. Today we'll do recovery training." Speaking of this, he glanced at Lu Qing, Lin Ke, Yanjika, and the others and laughed. "By the way, Azure Dragon Squad applied for a special competition format." "What?" Lu Qing and the others were a little confused. Chapter 183. Because they had never encountered a special competition before, although Lu Qing and the others were aware of the existence of such a thing and knew what the situation was, they couldn't react for a while. After a full 10 seconds they came back to themselves one after another and blurted out, "Special competition format? What kind of formation does Azure Dragon Squad have? Aren't they a combination of several martial arts clubs? Why didn't they apply for it during the competition with Fearless Squad?" Facing the questions of Sun Jian, Li Mao and the others, Geezer sure answered casually. According to the information from the organizing committee, Azure Dragon Squad doesn't have a formation. What? Without a formation, why did they apply for a special competition format? Guiqing opened her eyes wide. Geezer sure chuckled. Maybe they want to bully us because our substitutes are weaker. Of course, he wouldn't say that the main reason the opponent was worried was that the two main players at the professional level were too strong. They were also worried that Lu Cheng's stamina was so abnormal that they couldn't see the limit of it. Li Mao and the others suddenly became silent. They vaguely understood Azure Dragon Squad's plan. They were frightened by Lu Cheng's tremor punch and stamina. They knew that they had no chance of winning in a normal match, so they decided to use the special competition format. They wanted to send two professional 9th pin fighters to deal with Lu Cheng and Lin Ke, and the last one to fight the amateurs. There was such a trick. Sun Jian frowned and said, "Isn't this an insult? Even a professional 9th pin fighter doesn't have 3 heads and 6 arms. How can he have the confidence to deal with 4 amateur fighters?" If everyone punched at the opponent's vital points at the same time, even a professional 9th pin fighter would be flustered. Haven't you heard that ants can bite an elephant to death? Although Sun Jian was the main fighter in name, he consciously put himself in the ranks of the substitutes. The others also didn't feel anything wrong. In their eyes, the real main fighters of the martial arts club were only Lin Ke and Lu Cheng. Do you think others are wooden blocks that will just stand there and let you besiege them? Geezer sure sneered. Yen Zhika habitually raised her hand and said, "But the challenge tournament is different from real combat. The space is limited. It's hard to create a temporary one-on-one or one-on-two situation with physical strength." She once saw a video of a professional fighter being chased by 7 or 8 amateur fighters. The former seemed to be running away crazily, but in fact he was paying attention to the situation behind him. The fighters behind him didn't give up because they had more people. As time went by, they were divided into several small groups because of physical strength and speed. The distance between them was widened to an extent that they couldn't ignore. As a result, the professional 9th pin fighter fought back. He suddenly paused and pounced backward. Before the second small group could catch up with him, he used all his strength to kill one of the 2 enemies in the front and cripple the other. After this process was repeated, the thugs no longer dared to blindly chase after him. They always maintained a good distance. However, in this way they had no choice but to use the slowest speed as the standard. They could only watch the enemy leisurely walk away. This was the actual combat strategy of a professional 9th pin fighter when he was besieged. But it was almost impossible to use it in the challenge tournament. Yen Zhika's question was also Lu Cheng's idea. Although he was now a top professional 9th pin fighter, if he was besieged by more than 3 strong amateur fighters, he could only choose to run and fight. He didn't have the field control skills, like the 9th pin of the Dark Sect. He could use the advantage of his physical strength to create short one-on-one opportunities. In the challenge tournament he might reach the edge after running for more than 10 steps. Geezer sure laughed and said, "The specific situation needs to be analyzed. First, some martial arts are better at dealing with besieges such as Golden Bell Shield and Lion's Roar. Second, there is more than one battlefield in the challenge tournament. The opponent can use the other 2 places as obstacles to create distance. When Lin Ke and Lu Cheng are fighting with the professional 9th pin fighter, will you be more cautious when approaching? Will you be worried about being hurt? The opponent is a professional 9th pin fighter, so he will have fewer concerns in this respect. With the difference, he will have the opportunity to take advantage of the temporary chaos. And if you are slower, he will have the time and ability to besiege Lu Cheng or Lin Ke. So, although they may not be able to gain the upper hand, at least they have the possibility of winning." After listening to the coach's general explanation, Lu Cheng and the others thoroughly understood the thoughts of the Azure Dragon Squad. They knew that they were not whimsical, but intended to rely on the advantage of average strength to seek victory in the chaos. Understanding was one thing, but Li Mao and Lin Hua were still a little indignant. They felt that they were despised and looked down upon. Even Yen Zhika, who was always good-tempered, slightly pouted her mouth. "I don't know if I can master the Frost Force by Sunday." Lu Cheng looked at his girlfriend and thought to himself. This was not an impossible task. As long as he could memorize and master the subtle changes in his body when he visualized the frozen ground map before Friday, it would not be too difficult for him to master the frozen river map that he had been comprehending every day for the remaining 2 days. While thinking, he could not help but look at Lin Quebec. He wanted to know what level his brother-in-law was at after he recovered from his injury. Compared to the past, Lin Kei's vigorous qi and blood had weakened a lot. There was a sense of peace in his silence and coldness. Obviously he had touched the threshold of the Dan stage. But it was hard to say how much he had gained. At this time, Geezer sure clapped his hands and said, "Those who participated in the ranking event should do recovery training. The rest of you should do the same. We'll go back and discuss the Azure Dragon Squad later. The information has been sent to your mailbox. Don't look for videos with special competition rules. It's useless. Look for videos of amateur fighters besieging professional 9th pin fighters. It's better to look for those with obstacles. Summarize the experience in lessons." This morning, after Lu Qing completed the fixed daily training, he spent more time on memorizing and mastering the corresponding changes in his body. He felt that he had made a lot of progress. After a sweet and busy day, he went back to the dormitory. After washing up, he turned on the computer and logged into QQ. He sent a message to Yenjika. "Ko, have you finished reading the information?" As their relationship grew deeper day by day, they became more intimate. He called Yenjika more and more in a variety of ways. But as the first nickname, Coach Yen, had a special meaning. As for the information about the Azure Dragon Squad, he finished reading it in the afternoon class. But Yenjika was in a professional class, so she had to listen carefully. She could only take a look at it. The girl immediately replied to the cat that threw the salted fish in her hand, "Call me Coach Yen." "Yes, yes, yes. Have you finished reading the information, Coach Yen?" Lu Qing snickered. Yenjika only had 2 short classes in the evening. She went back to the dormitory with Zhong Yenru at around 8 o'clock to study the information and videos seriously. Unlike the usual self-study, she waited for Lu Qing to finish class and took a walk. This showed that she attached great importance to the weekend competition. After all, no matter what the arrangement was, she would be able to play. "Finished reading." Yenjika replied with a blank expression. "It's just like what Coach Sure said." Mo Zitsong's ancestor was a disciple of Daxing Temple. He passed down a martial art similar to Lion's Roar. Zhu Tao has been practicing Iron Shirt since he was young. His hard body skills are quite famous in Songqing. They were all professional 9th pin fighters who were good at dealing with sieges. Don't worry. When the time comes, your brother and I will hold Mo Zitsong and Zhu Tao back. During the competition they can't do whatever they want. Lu Qing replied. Among the 4 fighters in the Azure Dragon Squad, Mo Zitsong was the strongest. Not only was he born with great strength, but he also practiced throwing elephant skill. Without Thunder Roar Zen, Lu Qing felt that he could only beat him 4 to 6 times. As for the other 3, Zhu Tao had the Iron Mantle hard kung fu, and his punches and kicks were straightforward, which made him difficult to deal with. Deng Hua was famous for his tiger roaring iron fist. As for Su Zheng, he was relatively weak, but his foundation in 8 trigrams palm was very solid. Yenjika replied with an emoji of bright eyes. "Humph, when was I worried? I have already summarized several experiences of sieges." Lu Qing replied with an emoji of a naughty smile. "Coach Yen, please give me some advice." Beg me, and I will tell you." Yenjika replied with a smiley emoji of covering mouth. Men and women didn't care much about face when they were flirting. Lu Qing immediately begged with an emoji of prostrating himself on the ground. Yenjika replied with a thoughtful emoji of crossing her hands under her chin. "First, always keep a good distance from each other. Second, don't attack at the same time. It's best to have a gap of 1 second in case the opponent throws out all his martial arts. Third, don't rush. As long as you and my brother have enough time, you can definitely defeat your opponents. They should be the ones who are anxious." Lu Qing praised Coach Yen as he read, and then helped her to perfect the details through discussion and analysis. At this time, there was a new post in his fan forum from Lush Natural Generating Light: Sunday afternoon at 3:30 p.m. Songqing TV station will broadcast the key battle of the 3rd group, Songqing University Martial Arts Club vs Azure Dragon Squad, special competition format. And in the campus forum of Songqing University, the administrator also put a message at the top of each subsection. Sunday afternoon at 3:30 p.m., Martial Arts Club will fight Azure Dragon Squad at home, key battle of the qualifying round. This time, the TV station and the school's publicity department finally started to promote. In the blink of an eye, under the eager anticipation of Yan Xiaoling and the others, it was the afternoon of the weekend. A few hundred kilometers away, in the office of Shanbei University Martial Arts Club, Su Wanyan saw junior brother Peng, who was always in a daze, sitting there and looking at the computer leisurely. "Junior brother Peng, you didn't go out to play?" he asked in surprise. Peng Leyun smiled and said, "I was watching a preliminaries. What's there to watch? We are going to Huahai for the national finals next week. Su Wanyin was puzzled. At this critical time, as the pillar of the martial arts club, how could junior brother Peng have the leisure to watch a preliminaries? Peng Liyun laughed in a low voice. This could be one of the tough ones in the next round. The taste of the starry sky was unforgettable, so he had always been paying attention to it. Thinking about it, he fell into his daily days. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.